you're saying he doesn't lead, or I'm saying he doesn't lead game-winning drives when it really matters the most. You're saying, yes, he has. He's won a wild card game. He's won regular season games. I just don't think Kirk Cousins has the it factor, and I don't think he is a riser. I think you have to be a riser in order to be a Super Bowl caliber quarterback unless you're on the 49ers or a roster like that. And as much as I like the Vikings, they're not that type of team. They're not going to be that type of team in Kirk
But now
Cousins'
you're disagreeing
timeframe.
with what you just said, though.
Alrighty, welcome everybody to the Vikings team preview. This is now the fourth team preview we're doing here on the Miller Football channel. If you don't know who I am by now, my name is David. I also go by Miller Football. And currently I am on a mission to talk about every single NFL team, talk about their season last year, how that went, what they did during the offseason, and what our expectations are for every single team. And obviously I'm only one man. I can't do that by myself. So I'm trying to find as many football fans to sit down with and talk about their teams as I possibly can. And today, I've got two Vikings fans sitting here with me. To my right, we've got the TheGeekSlays, who is my co-host on the Run the North podcast. Definitely make sure to check that out. There's a link in the description to that. And then below me, the first time I've actually gotten to speak to him outside of fighting on Twitter, we've got Isaiah from Thicc Man Inc. So before we jump into this, fellas, how are we doing today?
I'm good, man. I got my Grimace shake here. I got my purple Hawaiian shirt on. I'm ready to talk about the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, dear God. He's going to die.
Be a great day.
Bro's got the Grimace shake. Well, how is that, by the way?
Yeah, is it any
It tastes
good?
exactly like the strawberry shake, but if I pass out and you see purple goo just start spurting from the floor, assume it didn't.
We know why. We know why.
So it is the milkshake itself purple?
It was purple. Can't really tell the lighting, but the cream kind of mixed down there.
Right.
It's purple and it tastes like strawberries. It's good.
That's what I was gonna say. It's purple and it tastes like strawberry. That's an incredibly weird combo.
Well, it tastes like a strawberry milkshake. The strawberry milkshakes don't really taste like strawberries either, but that's neither here nor there.
Nothing strawberry flavored tastes like strawberry ever.
Yeah, I don't venture into the strawberry flavored stuff. I'm a vanilla man. I keep it classic.
We've immediately gotten far off topic.
That's what happens. That's how this works.
Welcome to Speaking with Miller Football. I'm doing fine. I'm here. I exist.
That you do.
I don't know, man. I'm tired. I'm always tired.
You and me both. You more so.
We were both up till like 6 a.m. for no reason working on shit.
Jeez.
That we were.
So I got to bring the energy then.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're the perfect person to do it.
Lukewarm, semi-hot takes, a lot of passion about Justin Fields, the normal stuff for Vikings fans.
Right, of course. Well, we're going to try to avoid talking about Justin Fields today, as that's obviously going to be a sensitive topic for me in particular. I know Geek actually likes Fields, but
come on, man.
Fields was supposed to be our quarterback. What do you want? That's why the Bears traded up, was to get ahead of us, like actually.
Yeah.
I'm a Michigan fan, so I've never liked Fields. This is not just a Chicago thing. It runs deep.
Gross.
I don't really care about college football, so I just liked Fields. He was cool.
Fair enough.
Comes to the NFL and becomes an entirely different quarterback, though.
Yeah.
If you looked at him at Ohio State and you saw what he is in the NFL, you go, that's not the same dude.
No. That's what having no offensive line and no receivers does to a man.
I guess.
I got no complaints about that. He was actually good in college, so.
Well,
ouch.
That's the last one, I promise.
We'll see. Okay. Yeah, so enough about the Bears' depressing season last year. Yeah. Let's talk about the Minnesota Vikings' almost equally depressing season last year.
Maybe more. You expected bad things to happen.
Yeah, that's true. The Vikings, it was an odd season. I mean, you look at it on paper, 13-4 record, first in the NFC North, 8-1 at home, 5-3 on the road, and then 3-2 in their last 5 games. All that just to get beat in the first round of the playoffs by the New York Football Giants, and Daniel Dimes. Just in devastating fashion, that last play, check down to TJ Hawkinson, couldn't get the first down on 4th down. So my first question for you guys is just however many months removed from that game, how are we feeling?
Well, in the moment, I wasn't feeling good. I was watching with my co-host, big Giants fan, and he rubbed a lot of salt in the wounds. Not particularly fun experience. Looking back on it in the season in whole, it's kind of where I'd expect them to be. I kind of thought, okay, they're going to compete for the North, get in the wild card, maybe make the divisional, but not going to make the conference championship. And while they won 13 games, that kind of put the expectations a bit higher for the playoffs. It kind of was the same endpoint I saw coming. So that helped me get over it a little bit.
That's valid.
Yeah, I don't know. In the moment, I was not happy. I don't know. I wasn't delusional, but I kind of, I bought into the Arizona Cardinals in 2008 mentality, the let's shock the world thing. Like, we're not the best team, but like, it's 4 games. We can win 4 games. We couldn't win 1 game. That was a little disappointing. Yeah, I've had lots of arguments about that final play of the season because I don't really care about the final play. That one didn't mean anything. Let's be mad at Kirk for the pass he missed the play before that when KJ was open and he just threw it behind him. Can't really be mad at the dude for getting murdered by Dexter Lawrence. Let's be mad at Garrett Bradbury for that one. Just like, I don't know, actually exist. I swear a toddler could have held a block longer. Jesus Christ. But yeah, I don't know.
Interior line play.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But that's the story of the Vikings. But I don't know. I kind of also just expected us to win the division. The Packers got a lot worse. And so I expected that, but I didn't think we were that team. We were very old and lacked talent at a lot of premium positions. Our offense was just able to overcome most of those issues. So that was kind of cool. But hopefully that gets improved in the future. At least Ed Donatell's gone. That's all that matters.
Thank God. Hey, and winning the North something. It's not the only thing, it's not the biggest thing, but still won the NFC North. One of the oldest, most historic divisions in football. So hang your hat on that.
That's true.
Absolutely. And on top of that, I feel like, I don't know, this is from the outside looking in, so obviously I don't have the personal connection with it. But I think just the way the season went as a whole, obviously, like you said, winning the North and making the playoffs is great. But the amount of close games y'all won had to have been fun to a certain extent, but also been absolutely anxiety riddled and hurtful. Because you look at the Vikings, they were 7th in points scored with 424 and 28th in points allowed with 427, giving them a negative point differential at 13 wins. That is absurd. I don't know if that's ever happened in the history of ever. Maybe it has. I don't know. But just the thought of that, to have that great of an offense, that high scoring of an offense, and your defense be that bad. I mean, early on in the season, the Vikings defense was historically bad, at least statistically. It was all over the place. You had a lot of talent. It's just Ed Donatell did not know what he was doing, and we'll get more into that in a second. How do you feel about those who look at the Vikings last year and say, yeah, this team was fraudulent. Yeah, this team was really lucky. They were not nearly as good as their record suggests. They just had a couple things go their way.
You want to take that one first?
I mean, okay. It depends on how you're defining fraudulent. Like, were they as good as your average 13-win team? Probably not. But you don't just luck into 13 wins. That's not how that works. Yeah, maybe 1 or 2, but you don't, have the biggest comeback in NFL history just by luck. You don't. That's not how this works. Now, could things have gone better? Absolutely. But the reason we got there was the ability of our players to make plays at opportune moments. The game's really close at the end, but somebody steps up to make the play to guarantee that we win. That's not luck. That's having players who know what the hell to do, which is a really key thing. So it's not just luck. They're not fraudulent. They weren't as good as a 13-win team. The schedule mattered, and there were some games that were luck. Why did Josh Allen fumble in the end zone? No one will ever know. But it's not. They were kind of fraudulent. They weren't fraudulent. They were your average division winner that was like not really a Super Bowl contender. They just had an easier schedule than most. That's it.
I mean, if not being a contender makes you a fraud, I guess they were fraudulent.
Yes.
I kind of got myself thinking they'd be contenders just off pure hype and excitement. But you got to look at it both ways, too. Like, for example, the Washington game. That game shouldn't have been a one-score game, but a referee put a brilliant pick on one of our cornerbacks. Does that game suddenly being a one-score victory really change that much? There were some of those games where the Vikings kind of let their opponents back in it sort of late, which contributed to the whole undefeated in one-score games. They've been leading the entire time, and they just kind of let it go a little bit, which you can afford to do if you've got a lead. But again, there were also moments where we may have gotten lucky. Again, the Bills is the best example. Dalvin Cook breaking that play, Josh Allen fumbling in the end zone. That is the one true game I think about and say, okay, we got lucky on that one. But being clutch, being able to perform under pressure, that's an acquired skill, and I think a lot of the guys on the team, maybe even Kirk to a certain extent, have that. You know, it's bad luck they got down 35 points to the Colts in the first place.
That actually just was bad. That was just bad refereeing. Why did Chandon Sullivan have 3 fumble return touchdowns get called back? They were all fumbles.
Because his name is Chandon. Would you not throw a flag against a guy named Chandon for no reason?
No.
That's a good point. Chandon.
See, he gets me.
See, I don't know. That's very similar to my name, so I'm not going to go there.
It's similar, but at least yours is normal.
Can
you name one other Chandon in existence?
I mean, to be fair, D'Brickashaw Ferguson was one of the best players at his position.
Okay, well, D'Brickashaw sounds cool. Chandon is not a cool sounding name. Like, Chandon's the kid that gets bullied. D'Brickashaw is the kid that's the star tackle in high school and gets all the girls despite not playing quarterback.
I thought you were going to say D'Brickashaw was the guy bullying.
Well, yeah, D'Brickashaw is the guy bullying Chandon. You're absolutely right.
Oh, so D'Brickashaw's a piece of shit. Got it.
No, to be fair, the only Chandon we know is in the NFL, so
that's true.
Yeah, the only Chandon we know could probably kick all of our asses.
And is like actually one of the better slot corners in the game. So hey.
You know, more power to him. He had a hell of a hurdle to overcome and really overcame it.
He really did.
Yeah. But to circle back to reality for a moment, I agree with you guys that the Vikings or frauds thing is kind of wild. I mean, you don't luck into 13 wins. Geek put it perfectly. Sure, a couple things did go their way, but a lot of things didn't go their way, and they still had to overcome that. As someone who, at least going into the season last year, was an avid Kirk Cousins hater, I will say Kirk Cousins did step up quite a bit this season. And to upset Isaiah a little bit, I have changed my opinions on Kirk because of last season. I do like him a bit more. But yeah, the Vikings were a good football team. They weren't a great football team. Their play on the field definitely does not reflect 13 wins. But like Isaiah said, there's a certain, acquired skill that you have to be able to be that clutch and win that many close games. And there's not a lot of teams in the NFL that have that. That's hard to obtain. So shout out to Minnesota for that. Whoever you want to give the credit to, the coaching staff, the players, Kwesi up top, whoever, right?
I think you got to give that credit to KOC. I'm sorry, I have to butt in just because the last year with Zimmer, they were 0-9 in one-score games. And I don't even think it's just the actual coaching. It's the
vibes, the mentality.
The belief in his players that KOC had that Zimmer didn't. Even in Cousins, apparently Isaiah doesn't like Cousins. That's fine. But like, Zimmer's whole thing was like, I never wanted you. Teddy was better. Yeah, dude's not going to be able to perform under the pressure when the pressure's even higher because he's afraid his coach might shoot him.
Yeah.
Where in this case, KOC is like, nah, dude, you got it. Like, you actually have this. And that matters. Yeah. The belief from your coaches and teammates matters. And I think that showed.
Yeah, Zimmer did a lot for the Vikings, and I appreciate him for it. But at the same time, it was time for him to go culture-wise. Also, some of the credit goes to Justin Jefferson. When there was a big moment, he always seemed to have the ball, particularly in that Bills game with best catch of the year, one of the best catches of all time.
Oh, absolutely.
Just plays like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we had to bring up that catch eventually. My God,
Yeah.
that was a thing of beauty just to admire it for a moment.
Yeah.
Hate that it was a Vikings player, hate that it was in a clutch moment, but I also like Jefferson, so I can't complain too much.
At least
But
it wasn't a Packer.
that's fair. That's
No
fair.
Packers making a contested catch like that or a contested
True.
No,
catch.
sir. Absolutely not. But yeah, kind of looking back at just to wrap up talking about the Vikings season, and then we can move into like the personnel that was ran last season. Looking at some stats, specifically EPA per play. They were 25th in rushing EPA per play, which anyone that watched the Vikings probably not shocked by that. We saw a massive decline from Dalvin Cook, at least in terms of being an efficient runner. He still had some plays. There's still something there, but he's just not the Dalvin Cook of old anymore. 10th in passing EPA per play because Kevin O'Connell is a wizard and drew up one of the best passing games in football. 14th in rush defense EPA per play. 21st in pass defense EPA per play, which surprised me. I would have figured that would have been lower. But, shout out to the Vikings. They kind of picked it up a little bit in the secondary towards the back half of the year. And then again, 28th in points allowed, 15th in point differential, 7th in points scored. It was just a wild season. I think that's the best way to put it. It was just absolutely wild. Even watching it from the outside as a spectator who was just kind of paying a little bit of attention to what everybody was doing because I didn't have a lot going on for me. It was definitely something. But one of the big reasons why that season was so wild, and we've obviously alluded to it quite a few times, is Mr. Ed Donatel, the defensive coordinator for the Vikings last year, who his defense, when you watch it back on tape, was just an absolute disaster schematically. He really likes the Fangio quarters defense, which is fine. A lot of teams in the NFL do, but he bought too heavily into it to the point where he was out Fangioing Fangio and ran more quarters and more quarter half than anybody in the league. Well, not quarters, sorry, more quarter half than anybody in the league. Just looking at percentages here for how often different coverages were ran for the Vikings. 24th in cover 0 with 0.7%. 25th in cover 1 with 15.1%. 30th in cover 3 with 25.8%. 15th in quarters with 13.2%. First in quarter half with 27.2% of their snaps. 22nd in cover 5 with 0.5% of their snaps, and then other coverages made up 10.1% of their snaps. And when you look at a defense that sits in the same coverages so often as the Vikings did, it becomes predictable. And it's very easy to exploit different matchups. Like there was one instance where Ben Johnson in Detroit was able to get Zadarius Smith one-on-one in man coverage with Amon-Ra St. Brown, and that's never going to work. That's never going to end well for your defense. So what you're looking at, like with the defense they had last year, personnel was the big issue because Donatel was so stuck in his ways with this defense, he wanted to run schematically, but he didn't have the players to do it, especially in the secondary. The corners you have on the roster, guys like Pat Pete, oh my God, I'm already forgetting names.
Ham Dantzler.
Yeah. These are bigger body guys that are really good in man and press coverage. And you're just not doing that in this type of defense. It's a lot of lining up like 7 or 8 yards off the line of scrimmage and just expecting guys to play a zone, and they just weren't good at it. And they completely flipped the script on that. They're bringing in Brian Flores, fantastic defensive mind, who said, fuck that. We're going to throw all of those corners away, and we're going to get new ones who are going to run exactly what I want. And we'll talk about them more when we talk about the free agents. But I got to ask, how good does it feel to have him out of the building and have a genius like Brian Flores coming in to replace him?
Fantastic. That is the move in the offseason next to the Jordan Addison draft pick I am the most excited about. I thought Brian Flores should have been a head coach after he left Miami. Obviously, the Tua relationship, not particularly great, but just don't put him around a young quarterback. One of the great defensive minds, turned that Dolphins defense around entirely, and now hopefully he can do the same for Minnesota. Fingers crossed. But with him and the general manager we've got now building around his style of coaching, I'm very excited about that. And very excited Donatel's gone because that dude stunk.
Yeah, I don't have to watch Danielle Hunter line up in coverage ever again, so I'm very happy with that. I don't get how you do that. Take a top 10 edge rusher and be like, you're going to play 75% of your snaps in coverage. You don't get to go get the quarterback.
Yeah,
Why?
that's the weird part of the Fangio defense. We just ignore and we praise it for how great it is.
Well, I'm not going to ignore it because that was annoying and it caused
Yeah.
so many issues. I don't get it.
Yeah, no,
I mean, credit to
wasn't.
Hunter.
Yeah, but I don't get putting Hunter as an outside linebacker anyways. I think you should have just left him as one of your down defensive ends, but hey, whatever. And who knows? Might not have Hunter by the start of the season, so we'll see how that goes. But of course, the Bears fan has his fingers crossed for that. But I think we just pay him because it's pretty simple.
I
He's
don't know.
still only like 27.
Yeah,
So wild. He's like 10 years into his career. He's 27. I don't get that, dude.
It was
Stop.
amazing to me. He still had double-digit sacks, which again, it's just a number, but it's an impressive milestone while being
Yeah.
in that defensive scheme when
Yeah.
rarely compared to his peers being able to rush the pass rusher. It's
Yeah.
just, he's good.
I'm ready for Defensive Player of the Year, Danielle Hunter. It's coming.
in
Promise.
Chicago. Yep.
Are you
So
trading
amazing.
us like everyone on your roster?
No. Quessy likes to trade in division. We won't have to pay the in division tax. It's okay.
Oh, you will.
He has no
We're-
problem doing
We're taking
it.
both of your first round picks next year and DJ Moore. Thanks.
You're not taking
Oh, yeah.
DJ, but I would give you both first round picks for Danielle Hunter. I'm not going to lie.
Those are going to be good first-round picks. so.
I'm down for that. So down. Because
I low-key would consider
trade
it.
up for Caleb Williams. So I'm down. Let's go.
All right.
I don't know, man. I don't think we're getting Caleb Williams, but
If we get the Bears and Panthers picks, we might.
All right.
Whether they're bad or just, 3 first round picks is a lot in a trade package. So I'm down.
still, it's Caleb Williams.
That's
Yeah.
true. But I
I
think
was
the
gonna-
Cardinals are going to be the first overall pick, and they're not going to take him. They're going to trade out anyways. So,
You never
Yeah.
know.
or
It would
so we
just be-
trade for Kyler. I'll take that too.
It would just be so
I
tough
wouldn't.
for them to trade Kyler, though, with the money he's making, and you don't know what his value's at right now because he's not going to play. And the last year when he did play, it wasn't super pretty. Granted, a lot of that was Cliff Kingsbury, but
And
you know,
the
NFL
lack
teams
of
are-
players on their football teams.
yeah, no, you know, I like Kyler. I'm not anti-Kyler by any means. I think they would be stupid to trade away Kyler when you can get a literal king's ransom for Caleb Williams and
Yeah.
still have a good quarterback. But you know, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, that doesn't really. That
Yeah.
wasn't important. We're here
You
though.
put Kyler behind the Vikings' interior O-line, though, and he's not going to last 3 games.
I mean, our interior line's about 10 times as good as what the Cardinals was. So
Yeah, but that's
We're
like
good.
going from Pop Warner to freshman team.
yeah,
That's
outside of
saying a
Garrett
lot.
Brad. Okay, outside of Ed Ingram, Garrett Bradbury's not that bad unless you get an actual like great defensive tackle. Then he gets embarrassed. Like Dexter Lawrence will embarrass him, but your normal average NFL starter isn't going to hurt Garrett Bradbury much. It's just the Dexter Lawrences, the Chris Joneses. Ed Ingram's the problem. I need a guard that won't step on my quarterback's feet as he's trying to drop back, please and thanks.
Also very true. I would be perfectly fine if we moved on from all 3 of them. You're higher on Bradbury than I am.
Oh,
but
I don't. Nah, I'm really not.
He doesn't like Bradbury.
I just have to. It's copium. We signed him to a 3-year deal. We got to just accept it. I got to
No,
just.
I
see
like
what's there.
Bradbury for what he gives you in the run game. He fits the type of run scheme y'all are running perfectly, but as a pass protector, yeah, there's some issues there, and we'll put
Yeah.
it at that for now. But yeah, obviously bringing in Brian Flores is like the perfect way to say, hey, we're sorry Ed Donatel made everyone want to throw themselves off a building. Here's one of the brightest defensive minds of the past like decade, and he won't have to deal with a young quarterback, like Isaiah said. So there is literally no downside here other than the fact that he might head out for a head coaching job after a year. But if this year's super successful, then what's it matter, right?
Yeah.
that'll
It'll
be a
worth it.
draft pick thanks to the Rooney.
Yeah.
if he goes.
Absolutely.
Whoa.
So there is no downside to the move whatsoever. Not that there is when you bring in a
And I
good
don't
defensive
think
mind,
he. I still don't know if he goes yet.
Well,
I don't know. You sue the NFL, they hold a grudge.
yeah.
So,
I'll put it this way. I was saying that as worst case scenario. I'm
Oh,
not
yeah.
saying it's a guarantee he leaves, but
I
there's
mean,
a world
I
where
don't
it
want
happens.
him to. He can stay there forever. I'd be okay with it. Pay him like
Yeah.
he's a head coach. It's fine.
I mean, some guys are just better as a coordinator. Maybe Flores is one of those guys.
Yeah, who knows?
But obviously with Flores, the defense is going to be a lot different, especially in the secondary, because you're going from that kind of, I don't want to say cushiony and soft, but like more defensive approach to coverage. Whereas with Flores, it's a lot more aggressive. It's a lot more press man, getting up in a receiver's face, beating him up at the line of scrimmage, and then attacking the ball at all times, right?
Yep.
You're going to see a hell of a lot more cover 1 and cover 3. Again, the Vikings were in the late 20s, early 30s ranked in the league, and cover 1 and cover 3 ran last year. And that's also really reflective of the corners they have right now. You have Andrew Booth, you have Mekhi Blackman, you have a Caleb Evans, you have Byron Murphy, all corners who are really good in press man coverage that aren't afraid to get up in your face and make an aggressive play at the ball. So you're giving Brian Flores the perfect secondary for what he wants to do. And your front 7 isn't half bad either. Your offense is awesome. We'll talk about them schematically here in a moment. This is scary. I feel like this is not getting talked about enough. Even myself, when I was talking about the Vikings, like obviously y'all got brought up in the other NFC North team previews. And I won't lie, I don't know if you've seen them, but they kind of got laughed off, at least in the Packers one, by a certain individual who likes to talk sports. Geek knows where I'm going with that. Yeah.
Well, as a certain Bears player said, Packers fans really don't know ball. So
This is true.
Yeah.
The reason the Vikings are getting laughed off is because people are stupid. Like, actually, they're looking at the fact that we lost some big name players, Thielen, Eric Kendricks, Pat Pete,
Right.
Zadarius Smith. They're looking at the names and not seeing what they actually were last year, which is guys who weren't great anymore. Most of them weren't even really good. Zadarius was pre-injury, but that's 3 injuries in a row on a 30-plus-year-old dude. I'm not paying you more money. I'm sorry.
See, unfortunately, Geek, what you're not taking into account is all of these players are rated high in Madden, and some of them have superstar abilities, and your current starters are all rated in the 70s and have normal devs, so they suck. Sorry. That's how football fans think.
Doug, have football fans ever played Madden? That's not football. Fuck off. I'm sorry. I know Chad Ochocinco helps with ratings, but apparently he's a fucking idiot too, so it's okay.
Well, are we surprised that the man who changed his last name to Ochocinco isn't the sharpest tool in the shed?
I loved him.
Hey, it was fantastic marketing. I'll give him that. And I guess he did change his name back, didn't he?
Yeah.
Now that he's retired. Okay. Maybe I was being a little too harsh. That's a good point.
I think it was custom marketing.
Like the second best receiver with the last name Johnson, and instead, boom, Ochocinco. Now you know who he is.
He will forever be the best receiver named Ochocinco.
I really hope if he gets inducted into the Hall of Fame, which I kind of think he should, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
If he does, he shouldn't go in as Chad Johnson. It should be as Chad.
Oh, they'll put him as Ochocinco.
They gotta,
just
right?
Put 2 names on the plaque.
There you go.
Yeah. Just Chad Ochocinco and then in parentheses, really small Johnson.
Yeah.
Gotta have that small Johnson in there.
Of course.
Yes.
I set myself up for that one.
You did.
But yeah, point being, defense, scary. Definitely a unit that needs to be taken seriously. I know a lot of people are going to laugh at them, especially after last year, but this is a different Vikings defense. And for good reason, and they got a lot better. And then we move over to the offense, and the offense isn't really going to change because the offense was awesome. Yeah. And even though you lose Dalvin Cook, you still have Alexander Madison. You have Ty Chandler, who as a UNC fan, I love. And he drafted Wayne McBride in the 7th round, who is at the very least an interesting wild card in your backfield because there's kind of a range of what he can be. Like we'll talk about him when we get to the draft, obviously, but I really like him. I can see why people wouldn't. But obviously this offense coming from the McVay coaching tree with Kevin O'Connell coming out of LA, very similar to the Shanahan offense that everybody loves, just a lot less 21 personnel and a lot more spreading everything out and throwing the ball. But the Vikings are kind of weird in the fact that they don't run as much of the spread, and they run a little bit more of the 21 personnel because they just so happen to have one of the best fullbacks in football in their backfield. And their quarterback really likes playing football out of 21 personnel. Kirk Cousins, that's like his bread and butter. You get CJ Ham and whoever your running back is, pound the ball on some outside zone, then you can turn that into play action and do different things with it, even throw it to him out of the backfield. Like the Vikings, for as much as I hate them, are a beautiful example, of how a fullback can positively impact your offense, even in today's NFL. We'll talk about that more here when we get to their free agents. But looking at their percentages on different types of runs ran, they were second in outside zone with 41% of their rushing plays being outside zone, 19th in inside zone with 21%, 16th in duo with 17%, 22nd in power with 6%, 30th in counter with just 1%, 15th in draw with 2%, which makes sense because a lot of the teams that run counter nowadays, or that run draw, nowadays are running it with a quarterback, and Kirk isn't a quarterback you're setting up designed runs for, although he can scramble a little bit.
Maybe we should. We've seen Kirk do
Nobody would
the
expect it.
thing.
I'll put it
That
that
would
way.
be so funny.
Kirk
Just
takes a
one
snap and
game,
just
we let him
runs
play
straight.
like he's Justin Fields. I want to see it. Let's see how it goes.
A little bit of that white boy magic. See what Kirk
5
can do.
interceptions.
Let's see if we can have a real vanilla Vic, not this idiot who can't pass.
Right.
Not Dan Pennies.
Mm-hmm. And then rounding out 25th in pin and pull with 3%, and then other types of schemes, whatever that may be, anything I didn't name, 9%. So, like I said, this run game is going to remain the same because Alexander Madison and Ty Chandler are both more than capable of taking a handoff in outside zone. They have the speed to hit the outside. And honestly, despite Dalvin Cook being a big name, given the year he had last year, there's probably not going to be much of a drop-off.
We're probably
going to
get better.
Yeah, if anything, you will be better.
Dalvin was the most inefficient back in football last year. Like the odds, we're not getting worse. We're not. We'll probably be better, which is intriguing. Like
you guys don't seem to be that high on Dalvin Cook, and I agree he lost a step, but he was also responsible for 1,500 yards from scrimmage last year, which
with the sixth most carries in football.
Yeah,
I know.
It was a volume thing for him last year. Like,
but do you think Madison, Chandler, and McBride are all going to be able to fill in and match that volume?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's not going to be one guy at 1,500 yards. We're going to have Madison at like 800. I don't know who's going to end up being the second guy, whether it's Chandler or McBride, or maybe Ken Nwangwu. I had to throw his name in there.
I kind of forgot he was there. Yeah.
He's a good kick returner. I don't know if he can actually handle running the ball in the NFL, but I wanted to put his name in there.
Some touches at halfback.
There you go. Like, it's probably going to be, 700-800 from Madison, and then, 500 from the other guy, and then 300 sprinkled between the last three dudes. So it's not going to be one guy. It's going to be a full committee, but I think that actually might be better, especially because you can use all of the guys in the pass game. So it's never going to be, Alexander Madison's in the game, they're running it. Or, Ty Chandler's in the game, they're passing. It's like going to be more open than what it was with Dalvin.
Yeah.
I'm going to be cynical again. I love Madison. I think he's a good replacement. But Dalvin Cook, despite his inefficiency, had some plays. He could hit a home run. He could.
That's true.
Even if he lost a step, he could still find a hole and just take it past everybody if he got it.
And somehow lose a foot race to Ezra Cleveland.
That also true. I just think there's a little bit less There's a little bit less explosiveness in the Vikings offense. I don't think we're going to be worse in terms of total production between the triumvirate we've got now, but the loss of some explosion, it doesn't make me excited. Obviously, with the contract he was on, he had to either get restructured or go, but I'm not going to celebrate losing Dalvin Cook. He's why we won a game last year in the Bills.
That's fair. Kirk has also mentioned there's still a world where Dalvin comes back. When Dalvin sees everybody's only offering him $5 million, if we go, we'll give you $7 million, he might just walk back anyways. Yeah. We have the money. Yeah. It could happen. It's not impossible.
Yeah. And to be fair, I think it's less of celebrating Dalvin Cook being gone and more of just being okay with it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, obviously Dalvin was a fan favorite in Minnesota. He was a fantastic running back for however many years. It's just, as much as I hate to admit it, the shelf life of a running back has greatly diminished. And Dalvin, unfortunately, is starting to hit that point. And Minnesota's got some fresh legs that if you give an opportunity to, they can work. They can at least be productive. And with how Minnesota's offense is, you don't need a superstar back. You don't need Derrick Henry. You don't need Nick Chubb. You don't need CMC. You just need guys who work. You just need guys who fit the system and can be productive. And I think you've got a solid set of 3 or 4 backs that can absolutely, at the very least, be productive. Now, I don't think we're going to be putting Madison or Chandler or McBride or Nwangwu or whoever in a top 10 running back conversation at the end of the year. But I think we're going to be looking at Minnesota's committee as a whole and thinking, you know what? They're solid. They're doing their thing. They're a good complement to the passing game, and that's what Kevin O'Connell wants them to be.
And Cook was a luxury at the end of the day. I get that.
Yeah.
Some bias in my heart because I did like watching him so much.
I love Dalvin.
You are probably right that the total committee is going to be better than him, but I need to see it before I get really excited about it.
I don't want people to think I'm hating on Dalvin Cook. I loved Dalvin. I'm still waiting on. I hate the Vikings. I got to throw this out there. They're being greedy. I'm sorry. EK and Dalvin aren't on the team anymore. Make their jerseys on sale, you fucking assholes. I'm sorry. This is stupid. Rodgers jerseys were $20, but fucking Dalvin Cook, 150. He doesn't even play for us. 150 for number 33. Dalvin Cook. Why?
Rodgers went out on bad terms, though.
That's fair.
Your boys
Firewood's pretty cheap, so
that's why I got the Thielen jersey. He was on sale.
Yeah.
Only Thielen.
Every time I buy a jersey of a current player, they're gone within a year, so I'm holding off.
Yeah. It's my fault if Justin Jefferson leaves. I'm just putting that out there now.
It won't happen. Out to Wyoming. See ya if he does.
Valid. That's valid. It's not going to happen, Miller.
I don't care. I can dream. Okay. I can hope. Although I will admit, at this point, it would be kind of weird seeing him in a different jersey. So I don't know how much I'd actually like it.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Like from an aesthetic standpoint, it would suck. But from I don't have to play him twice a year standpoint, I'd be throwing a parade in the damn city. Like, he scares me.
I get that.
He scares me a lot. I like the Bears secondary. I at least like the potential of them. I don't care how good they're going to be. He's still going to scare me.
I was going to say, does it matter how good the secondary is when it's Justin Jefferson?
Like the other teams in the division, right? You look at their best receivers. If we have a good secondary, Amon-Ra St. Brown, he worries me a little bit, but he's containable. Christian Watson, he's containable. Justin Jefferson,
good luck.
Right.
He doesn't want to play today because that's about all you got.
Just hope he woke up on the
Kirk
wrong side of the bed this morning. Or Kirk has a Kirk moment. Yeah. I'm just going to hope and pray from now on the Bears play the Vikings on Monday Night Football.
Except for the Bears have never beat Kirk on Monday Night Football. They're like the only team he's ever beaten on Monday
the game where then it must have been Sunday Night Football I'm thinking about. What was the game that Eddie Jackson picked off Kirk on the sideline?
No.
And the Bears.
We won. Didn't we still hold on?
I think we still won that.
Really?
Yeah. Because that was also the one everybody tried to call EK a dirty player because he dove at Justin Fields right as Fields was starting to slide. Okay, everybody's like, EK's evil. And it's like, no, he's not. He dove as Fields started to slide because he was just going to try to make a tackle. It was just bad luck. But yeah, Kirk likes to play the Bears on Monday night. He still sucks, but he knows how to.
Everyone likes to play the Bears in prime time.
No, that's not true. The Patriots don't.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, moving on to talking about the offseason for the Minnesota Vikings. Starting out with their free agents that we have alluded to quite a bit, considering there were some big names that left. From a fan perspective, which one of these losses hurts the most? And it doesn't necessarily have to be like looking at them as an on-the-field player, just like personally, because there are some long-time Vikings on this list. Which one hits the hardest that makes you go, man, I'm going to miss him?
Well, I wasn't a fan of Cook leaving. I've already expressed about it, but the big one for me was Eric Kendricks. Like I'd kind of watched him develop from this no-name, somewhat undersized linebacker into first-team All-Pro, one of the best guys in the country, and then the contract extension, then the fall off, just kind of came together. Obviously, I think it's a good thing we got rid of him. He wasn't worth what he was getting paid. I don't think he's worth what the Chargers are paying him at the moment, but hurt seeing him go. Would have really hurt to see Harrison Smith go, but I'm glad we restructured him.
Yeah.
Well, the good thing is Harry's still playing at a high level. So
this is true. This is true. And I'm so excited to see Flores use Harrison Smith.
Oh my God. I haven't even thought about that.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Because we have, if Lewis Cine comes back healthy, we can have Bynum and Cine playing actual safety and just let Harrison be. He can just exist out there doing things. It'll be exciting. I'm
Basically,
ready for it.
Defensive Deebo Samuel.
Pretty much.
Oh, dear God.
It's going to be real good.
Everybody ganks until he's got Harry coming off the edge.
Yeah. The original, what was the nickname everybody gave Jamal Adams? The
ankle gangster.
No, some sack boy or not sack boy,
Blitz
but whatever.
boy.
Blitz boy. Harrison Smith was the original Blitz boy. He was just actually good at other things, so people didn't make fun of him. So I was gonna say EK, but I'll just say Adam Thielen because that one's tough too. Thielen's been here forever. The Minnesota kid with the great story, undrafted, gets a tryout at camp and slowly builds himself up. Not just to be like a player, but to be like one of the best receivers in the league at one point and like actually incredible. Sucks to see him go. Just like with EK, though, it was time. Dude can't separate anymore. It's unfortunate. I'm literally wearing a Thielen jersey right now, but whatever. It was time. It's just, it all sucks. It all sucks. Everything sucks. No.
It would hurt more if he wasn't 33.
That's true.
I mean, hey, props to Thielen. Like y'all said, hell of a story, but a 33-year-old white boy receiver that doesn't have a lot of juice left. Unless you're a Panthers fan, you can probably acknowledge that that's not going to give you a whole lot. If you're a Panthers fan,
Moore replacement,
right?
Dude,
exactly.
Rico told us, man. Come on.
I will be so excited if Thielen goes and just balls the fuck
Hey, listen,
out.
I'm rooting for Thielen. Now that he's out of Minnesota, I love Thielen. I love a UDFA that comes out of nowhere in hoops.
Yeah.
I hope he does great, but I also don't because Panthers fans are pissing me off. But that's not.
Well, and you need the Panthers to suck, so you get a better draft pick.
See,
so.
that matters too, but I feed off of spite. So I want Panthers fans to be proven wrong because I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole other discussion for a whole other video.
Other can of worms.
Yeah.
You're bad.
Yeah, but obviously, like you guys said, Adam Thielen, Eric Kendricks, Dalvin Cook, Zadarius Smith, all big losses. Dalvin Tomlinson, a very quietly huge loss because Dalvin Tomlinson is that guy. Some of the other losses, Irv Smith Jr., and then
Cam Dantzler.
Yeah, Cam Dantzler, Shannon Sullivan, Pat Pete Shelley, Olabisi Johnson. There are a couple other guys too, but those are all the ones I had written down.
Has BC signed anywhere yet, though?
I don't think he's signed anywhere, but he's not. I don't know. Y'all have added some new receivers. I don't know if
I still
BC
think
really
bring
fits
him
in.
back to just have him beat out Jalen Reagor because I don't want Jalen Reagor on this team anymore. I'm over it.
I kind of like Jalen Reagor being there with Jefferson, but that's
tangential. It's ha funny, but we also watched him personally account for 4 of Kirk's interceptions because he'd see ball and then stop and watch the defender catch it because he's a fucking
maybe
idiot.
Just don't throw it to him and let him return kicks for us.
But as a punt returner, he had 5 muffed punts. Just put Kenny Nwangwu back there. He's better.
Hey,
what are we doing?
But he broke Roquan Smith's ankles that one time on a pop pass.
That was funny.
I can laugh at that now because
yeah.
Roquan Smith is a bitch. But
again, I mean, he got bullied by Carson Wentz. So
he did get bullied by Carson.
He got bitched by Wentz, and I love it.
Just to go on a quick tangent real quick about Roquan Smith, since he got brought up, it's so funny to me how, that season was supposed to be Roquan Smith's prove-it year, where he's trying to get this $100 million contract, and then he just proceeded to get caught in, the most come-on, man moments ever, week in and week out. got bitched by Wentz, got bitched by Jalen Reagor. Like,
what a crew
on,
to
man.
bitch the guy. That's
The
funny.
beauty of that year, he was still really good, but just
No,
the
he was
moments in the
good.
vacuum.
Yeah. Like he was good.
The
at
highs
the end
were
of his
high,
tenure
but the
in
lows
Chicago.
were low.
And then he just went to Baltimore and went nuclear because he's
Yeah.
an incredibly talented football player. But yeah, like you look at these free agents that you guys lost, and I know we've talked about the big names quite a bit, but in the secondary specifically, you know, Chandon Sullivan played 81% of snaps for you guys. Pat Pete played 95% of snaps. Duke Shelley only played 34% of snaps, but he was huge as a nickel corner.
And
I
it
wish
was,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
and it was like 100% of snaps in the last half of the season.
Yeah.
Like he took over as corner 2 on that
Mhm.
team.
Yeah, I wish Chicago would have thought, hey, Duke Shelley's a nickel corner. Let's play him as a nickel corner, and didn't try to put him on the boundary and he looked bad. And then Cam Dantzler also played 43% of snaps. Like I said earlier, the Vikings completely overhauled their cornerback room. And for good reason. It's going to work out for them. They've got the guys they need to run their defense. And that is scary. I will reiterate. That is very, very scary. And I feel like more people need to be talking about it. I'm very, very scared of this secondary.
Pat Pete was clearly the best corner last year, but he's
Yeah.
also going to be 33 by the time next year starts.
Mm-hmm.
And he would have fit the Flores defense, I'm sure. But the way I see it, we essentially brought in 3 new guys in free agency. Byron Murphy, who we actually signed, but Booth Jr. and Sign were injured a majority of last season. So they basically got in, even though we didn't spend draft capital on them. So I think we've replaced them well enough. I'm not going to shed too many tears over one of the worst statistical secondaries in the NFL. Maybe
Yeah.
And even a Caleb
broken
Evans
up.
didn't get to play almost at all. Dude had 3 concussions, which is a little terrifying, but I liked what I saw from a Caleb when he got to be on the field. Apparently he's changing helmets, so hopefully that matters.
So again, I'll get one of those Transformers ones.
Dude, I don't know. Just wrap him in bubble wrap. I don't know. I love a Caleb, but my God, 3?
3 in one
Going after
season?
Tua.
Is that what it was?
That's why
That's
he missed the
crazy.
last like 8 games in a row. Is he got the last one? It's like, you're done.
Yeah.
Go sit.
Yeah.
Go hang out with Tua in the tent.
Yeah.
Yeah, with those corners, obviously, you're not shedding any tears with them, right? These aren't like long-term Vikings. They're not superstars. But it is notable when you lose that many snaps in a single off season. But again, the Vikings just did such a fantastic job of replacing all of those snaps.
Yeah.
And then shifting gears to look at the free agents they retained, obviously Alexander Madison, who we've already talked about, fantastic fit for their offense. Andrew DePaula. I always forget how to say his name. Mad respect to him, one of the best long snappers in football. But his name confuses me. And then CJ Ham, once again, just such an underrated piece for the Vikings offense. And I swear I'm not just saying that because fullbacks are my thing. He is legitimately a really underrated piece for their offense. We were talking off camera, might have been on camera, depending on how I decide to edit this. Geek was saying you have Kevin O'Connell, who's coming from the Sean McVay coaching tree, where fullbacks aren't a part of that offense. I know McVay started to use Skoranek as like a pseudo fullback, but like a real fullback isn't a part of that offense. It's one of the big differences between the McVay tree and the Shanahan tree. And Kevin O'Connell gets to Minnesota. He's got a fullback on a 1-year deal, an expiring contract. Watched him play and thought, you know what? I want to change like one of the core elements of my offense to make sure he stays on the field. So let's extend him for 2 or 3 more years, despite almost being 30 as a fullback, because they don't have the lifespan that a lot of NFL players do. Like you talk about the shelf life of a running back, a fullback's even shorter. It's like half that. So shout out to CJ Ham, one of the best in the league by far. I'm not going to say where I rank him because me and Geek never get along on this.
Because you're wrong.
I'll put it this way. At the very least, he's one of the 3 best. That's how I feel about him.
Who are you putting it to, Isaiah? I might have to kick you.
I'm
You're
higher
not
on
putting that fat
Ricard.
bitch who can't do anything there. No, the guy who's
Again,
just
we went
another
over
tackle.
this.
He
I
can't
take
catch.
pride in
Exactly.
saying my
run.
two
Because
isn't
he's just
Ricard.
another tackle is why I like him. He is a big space clearer.
And that's he was just
That's-
talking about his breed of fullback is just guys who
I
hit
know,
hard.
but like, gross.
You
Give me a
don't see
fullback
people
who can
clearing a
play
bouncy move
fullback,
like that.
not
Yeah.
just another tackle.
I mean, would you rather have your fullback run the ball or Lamar Jackson?
I mean,
Let's be honest with
well,
ourselves.
that's fair, I guess.
I wouldn't
That's
want to take
cheating.
carries away from him.
Yeah.
Um,
Who's your two now?
It's been Ingold since like the start
That's
of last year.
disgusting.
I stand
That
by
is
it.
disgusting. Come on,
I
man.
stand by it. He's the closest thing to juice we had in the NFL last year, and then a rookie came in and changed that. But that's a conversation for another video. A video that I will certainly be making at some point. I will be talking about fullbacks on this channel in a full video. So be on the lookout for that. That's something I got to do.
I need to
but
make
look-
a CJM TikTok at some point here soon. It's the offseason now.
Ham God.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But moving on from that, the next big like retained free agent we've talked about a little bit as well, Garrett Bradbury, who hit or miss, really good for this running scheme, like the ideal wide zone center, but pass protection is tough. He's not consistent. He doesn't have like the functional strength you want in a center. So, it is what it is. They re-signed him for what, 3 years, Geek?
Yeah. 3 years, $18 million. So like $6 million a year, whatever.
Right. At least the
That's
money
also
isn't
why I was
crazy.
more okay with it. He's
Mhm.
making less than I think what John Michael Schmitz is going to be making as a rookie. So, all right, dog. But like, yeah, hyper athletic dude, but just small. I mean, everybody knows how athletic he is. We all saw that catch thing he had against Green Bay a couple of years ago. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Garrett
It was.
Bradbury.
And then
My
moving.
concern.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'll briefly touch on. I've already mentioned it. I'm just picturing in the playoffs against the defensive line like the 49ers, the Eagles, the Giants again. Hopefully not. I don't know if they're making it back. I just don't think that'd go particularly well. Like, he kind of hurts championship aspirations or any postseason success aspirations just because of how good the lines in the NFC are.
Yeah.
I think the big thing with that is you have to hope that Ed Ingram can get better. I don't have much faith. I don't like Ed Ingram, but like, I'm gonna hope. He is a second year, like, third round guard. Gotta put the hope out there that he can improve. Maybe just don't step on Kirk. That's a big step. But also, I think one of the big issues for that playoff game is Bradbury was left alone a lot because Brian O'Neill wasn't playing. So Ingram had to help the other side instead of helping him. So, like, it was Darisaw, you handle Kayvon over on this edge, okay? You're good. Ezra, you're going to handle Leonard Williams on your own. Garrett, you're going to handle Dexter Lawrence because whoever the other edge is killing. Who was starting at right tackle in that game? Was it Blake Brandel?
No,
it was
know,
Ollie.
but...
It was Ollie. I can never remember how to say his last name. But yeah, it was Ollie. He's not good, and we re-signed him. So,
did you?
Yay. Ollie Udo is back.
I mean,
yeah.
hopefully he doesn't have to play.
Yeah, hopefully Brian O'Neill is the guy. And once that happens, if you can just allow Ingram and Bradbury to more double guys, I'm more okay with that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it just the Vikings have some of the best tackles in the league, but the health is the part of it.
Yeah,
now.
absolutely.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah.
Losing Brian O'Neill hurt really bad.
But continuing on, looking at their re-signings, Jordan Hicks is a name that might not excite a lot of people, but for this defense in particular is huge because obviously Brian Flores wants himself like a thumper at linebacker. He needs somebody who's going to crash down, make plays against the run, just very scrappy, hard-nosed type of guy, and that's exactly what Jordan Hicks is. He's got that like scrappy mentality because of how much he has bounced around the league, and this is like one of the first times in his career he's gonna play for the same team in back-to-back seasons, which is awesome. Good for him. He's just the type of linebacker that, he's going to see a pulling guard and be able to make a play and stop them dead in their tracks and let someone come behind him to clean up, or even make the play himself and get the running back while stopping a guard. Like, he is awesome. And then another player very similar to that, former Chicago Bear, who I loved from day one, but unfortunately didn't fit the new Eberflus scheme. And that's Khyiris Tonga out of BYU, also from the nation of Tonga. I think it's awesome that he's Tonga from Tonga. I don't know if that's a normal thing. I'm not very culturally sound, but regardless, he's awesome. He's just a big ass space eating nose tackle, and he fits perfectly doing that. He is tremendous at that role. He, clears lanes for your running backs to come in, or for your linebackers to come in, excuse me. And he's not going to be someone that's on the field a lot, but when he is, he's going to make a difference. And that's all you need from a guy like that.
I mean, Tonga's 6'4", 350.
Right.
You put him in there, he's just such a massive body that he's going to do whatever he wants in the run game. It'll be very hard to get him out there. And if you do manage to double team, you're probably not going to be able to double team and get someone to slide off and get Jordan Hicks if he's coming downhill.
Right.
So I'm happy with those two being there.
Yeah.
And we're going to move to an entirely rotational defensive line now without Dalvin Tomlinson. We don't just have a guy who it's like,
right,
all right, he's playing the nose. All right, that's good. He's never coming out of the game. We don't have that anymore, which could be good, could be bad. We'll have to see. But I like Tonga and somebody else we'll talk about later as the replacements there. But the Jordan Hicks thing, I'm fine with it. Our linebacking room is really young at this point. So just having him as a veteran presence is good. I still think by like week 9, he won't be getting that many snaps, but that's just me. I'll tell you why later.
Yeah. Geek is a big fan of a certain individual who is...
I'm also a fan of the other starting linebacker.
Yes, of course. The one that I
haven't watched since Oklahoma. So
I'll have you know, when we actually talk about him, you will be pleasantly surprised with what I have to say.
Oh, good. I like to be surprised.
Because I went out of my way to watch him before we recorded this. Yeah.
Boy.
So yeah, other re-signings, just quick fire. Greg Joseph, Jonathan Bullard, Nick Mullins. I don't know if there's anything you want to say there. Geek looks sad. Is it Greg Joseph? Yeah, I figured.
Why? He's so... I'm the kicker defender, but he's so bad. Like, Minnesota always has this issue with their kickers not being able to kick. I don't know why.
It's a curse.
But like, dude, he misses like 50% of his extra points. That's not even a joke.
He had most of his game winners last year.
When you get a million chances... But yeah, he'd hit the game winner and be 1 for 3 on the day. Like, we don't need the game winner.
Exactly, he hits it when it matters.
I don't care. There's
got that dog in him.
Better kickers we could have went and got, but like, whatever.
Look, he hasn't Blair Walsh just yet. So
I'm also mad, not just because we re-signed him. We haven't signing a kicker to a 1-year deal. Sign another kicker for camp, please. Actually make Greg Joseph win that fucking job, please.
I've never been a fan of that just because the psychology of those guys is so off that if competition gets brought in, I feel like both of them could conceivably snap and start going 1 for 20. If kickers are squirrely, Joseph could be worse. It's not going to kill us.
I don't think you know anything about
kickers. An old school mindset towards kickers. I love it.
I think all kickers are idiot kickers. I'll put it to you this way. I've been blessed in my football career. When I played in high school, I played with the guy who went to Maryland, played with the guy who went to App State. When I played in Furman below D1 in college, I played with 2 kickers, one of which transferred to UNC, one of which transferred to Georgia. I've been astounded by how good the kickers around me have been when I played football, but they're all the same. They're kind of squirrely, slightly socially awkward, get in their mental zones. And I'm sure some swaggy kickers out there like Justin Tucker are the exception.
That's why he's so good.
For the most part, I just think let these guys be alone. If they're not shooting you in the foot and winning you games,
by missing a ton of extra points, you are getting shot in the foot.
He was not the reason we lost any game last year, I don't think.
Last year, no. The year before, yeah, like 18.
Yeah, but he had a good year last year. Surely he's fixed.
He had a mediocre year. He hit one kick that mattered, and everybody's obsessed with him now, and I don't get it.
He hit more kicks that matter than you did, so...
Hey.
There you go.
That's from lack of opportunity. I wouldn't have missed those fucking extra points.
If anyone survived us talking about fullbacks and interior offensive linemen, they're not making it through the kicker segment. The viewer retention.
See, no, they know I'm on the show. They knew it was going to be kick. I'm the kicker guy. I was a kicker. I'm the kicker,
and I'm
dude.
just saying, if you're subscribed to Miller Football, which you should be if you haven't yet, click the button.
If they're here at this point of the video, they're subscribed.
Yeah. No, they know they're coming for fullbacks. They know it's happening. Even if it's a team without a fullback, I will find a way to make it happen. I will find a way to bring it up.
Come for the fullback, stay for the grimace shake.
Exactly. There you go.
Leave because Geek's talking about kickers again.
But moving on, just to wrap up free agency, out of their additions, there's obviously one guy that stands out above the rest, but what player are you most excited for this coming season out of the free agent additions?
It's Murphy. I think Murphy, if he's on the field, has been severely underrated in the majority of his career. I watched him in Arizona. I thought he was great in Arizona. This isn't just me being a homer now that he's on my team. I thought he was a piece of a defense which struggled greatly, but I think it's more so the pieces around him which dragged him down as opposed to himself being part of the problem. And I'm kind of excited to see how he can fill a role in the Brian Flores defense.
I'm going to go somewhere entirely different. I'm going to bring up Marcus Davenport real quick just because he exists. Like, he's not the guy I'm most excited about, but he's interesting. He's been productive when healthy, and he's not going to be asked to be an every down pass rusher now. Him and DJ Wanham are going to rotate constantly. I really like Wanham, so I like the idea of having both of those guys be able to come in a lot. I also wish, again, either Daniil or Davenport, somebody just go play regular down defensive end. Oh my God. Stop being outside linebackers when you're 6'6", 260 and not that fast. Stop it. But to be different, I'm going to go with Josh Oliver.
Ooh, okay.
The tight end we signed to replace Irv Smith, kind of. Because I like the idea that because we have Josh Oliver now, you get to have TJ Hawkinson be more of a receiving weapon, not just like, because he's so good at run blocking that you leave him in to block all the time. Where now that's what Josh Oliver is about. You get to have both guys on the field now, being able to help in the run game. Having both in the run game is going to be incredible, but being able to open Hawkinson up to just go be wide receiver 2 basically is awesome. I think that addition is sneaky. I know people don't like the contract, but it's because they don't get it. They just see the big number, not what the contract actually is. So, yeah, big number scary. Same thing with Davenport. He's getting $13 million. He's like $4 million against the cap. Who cares?
Plus, even if he's getting $13 million
is?
by edge standards, that's like middle of the road. That's not even that expensive to begin with.
Yeah.
High value position.
Yeah.
Productive, generated pressures, couldn't really convert them into sacks last year.
Yeah.
It's
take that.
Yeah.
Now, getting back to the Oliver signing briefly, I've got a proposed package for you. 5 down linemen, Kirk Cousins under center, Justin Jefferson out wide, CJ Ham behind him, Oliver behind him, Hawkinson behind him, whatever fullback we got behind all of them. Imagine that on the goal line. You don't know what's going to happen. You got
who's getting the ball?
CJ. That's how you really throw him off. You give after all that, you give him to CJ.
Yeah. You do a straight handoff fullback dive up the middle with 7 guys in your backfield.
I kind of want to see that now.
Can now run. Michigan ran it a few times a year or 2 ago where they just lined up 5 people. But it is a possibility. He's a great run blocker, and I think Hawkins will be better because of it. That's a pretty good
absolutely.
pick.
Yeah. Another name that you guys skipped over, and he's not quite as exciting, but Dean Lowry getting added to the defensive line. Also, just an incredibly solid defensive lineman. And like Geek said, there's going to be a big time rotation down there because you don't have like the true alpha. You just have a bunch of guys that can be productive and play their role well. And Dean Lowry is certainly that. Plus, you're sniping him from a division rival. Never hurts. Got plenty of tape on him, obviously. So, as a whole, the Vikings free agency, despite the name value, I think they did fantastic. They quietly did really well. And again, people are going to say they got worse, they did this, they did that because of the name value. But when you break it down and really look at what they lost from their performance last year and where they're at in their careers, and what they gained from their performance over the last however many years and where they're at in their careers, it's a net positive, if you ask me. And I hate to say it, but it's certainly a net positive.
If we had the worst defense in the league of all playoff teams last year, and we replaced a bunch of our starters who were on bad contracts, I have a real hard time seeing how people are just saying, oh, they got worse.
And also, the defensive coordinator hire. I'm sorry. We're going to go from a bottom 5 defense to at least a top half of the league defense just based on that, let alone how the guys actually step up. So there's a world where this is a top 10 defense, like an actual world. I'm not trying to hype it up to that yet. Expectations lower, but
if we're talking ceiling, top 10 is not crazy at all.
I think that's a few years down the line. I'm sitting. Give Flores time with the young guys. Let him work his magic.
Yeah. I'm just saying, if everything clicks, which with Flores isn't out of the question, there's a world, at least statistically, where they're a top 10 defense. I'm not saying I think that'll definitely happen by any means, but I agree with Geek. There's no world where I think they're, barring horrible luck with injuries, there's no world where this isn't a top half of the league defense at the very least. And that's a major step up. You pair that with enough
is mediocrity.
Yeah. And I mean, you give them a mediocre defense and their offense stays where they were last year. It's a lot scarier football team. It's a football team that is taken seriously.
Yeah. It's the thing. We're going to be a weird team because of all of that. I should save this for later because I'm sure you're going to ask this. So I'm going to we'll move on.
Yeah. So moving on to the draft. Out of surprisingly a small draft class, it was a little bit smaller than I remembered. Not a bad thing because I thought they did well with their picks. Who was your favorite draft pick for the Vikings this year?
I wanted to be on record that I had this guy listed as my wide receiver 1 before the draft, but I was a big Jordan Addison guy. I think slot receivers are incredibly valuable in the modern NFL. I think you can be super productive, and people have a stigmatism against guys who don't necessarily go out wide consistently, but yards are yards in that sense. And I think Addison is a great fit. And the size doesn't really worry me. Devontae Smith, tiny guy for his position. Amazing career so far in the NFL. So I was on the Addison hype train early, and I'm very happy the Vikings went out and picked him.
Yeah.
To speak of a later round pick, though, sorry to cut you off, but
no, you're good.
Jacqueline Roy, I think, is going to be a big part of that rotation at nose tackle, and I think he is also a giant body like Tonga, who's just going to eat up space. A little bit more athletic, I think. Can move around a bit better. Maybe it'll generate a bit more of a pass rush of pressure, but I'm happy about that pick too. But it really is just Addison I'm over the moon about.
Yeah, Addison's like a perfect replacement for Adam Thielen at this point. Like the position that Thielen was playing as the slot guy, we got to have Addison do that. So just a more athletic version and a guy who is just going to be fun. You can do a lot of stuff with him. You can move him around and you still get to then just have KJ as just he's going to just kind of go type guy, which is fun. And yeah, Jacqueline Roy was the other guy I was going to bring up when we were talking about Tonga earlier. It's going to be great. I like the rotation of defensive line pieces we have now. If I was being forced to pick an actual draft pick I'm most excited about, it's Mekhi Blackman. I really liked Blackman coming out of college. And so perfect for Flores' defense. So big fan of that. But no, my favorite rookie coming in is Ivan Pace. He was Miller hates every time I do that. He was the best linebacker in college football last year. He just was. He was better in coverage. He was better against the run. He had more sacks. He did everything better than Jack Campbell. But because he's 4 inches shorter, he's bad.
Better
Get outta
against
here.
the run?
Yeah.
No.
Dude's a little thumper. Love it.
Listen,
replacing
he's a
Jordan
hard
Hicks
hitter,
quick.
but when it comes down to the what's the word? The diagnostics and the reading plays and filling lanes, disagree heavily.
Fair
All
enough.
of that kind of stuff needs work with Pace, and that's one of my big issues. He's a great hitter. When he lines up a hit, certainly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He's the little engine that could running through people.
Yeah, he's
But
the Hicks replacement, basically. And
I
that's
mean,
why
yeah.
I don't think Hicks is making it very far as
Well,
the starter into
I
the
think
season.
he will for this year at the very least.
I think it won't last that long. Pace
Okay,
is
well, he'll
just
be
so
the week
athletic
one
and able
starter.
to do so. Oh, yes.
And I think, again, the diagnostics is a big reason why I think Hicks will hold his job.
Possible.
Because
I
I
think we
think
can
Florida...
Yeah, sorry.
I mean, you can work a rotation. I'm not saying
Oh, yeah.
Pace isn't going to play. He's obviously going to get snaps.
Oh,
At the very least, like on nickel and dime packages, you bring him in, just send him at the quarterback. But
Worst thing about it is he doesn't get to wear 0, and that annoys me.
what's he wearing?
I don't know. Right now, he's wearing like 40.
Eh.
If
I'm
he
not a
makes
fan.
the team.
He's
Which
making
he
the
probably
team.
will, but
What?
we can hype up Pace without disrespecting Jack Campbell.
No.
I wanted to say that back when we were time, but like, come on, man. Jack Campbell's freakish athleticism, diagnostic ability, cornerstone of a top 5 defense in college football last year.
Mhm.
More important than Van Ness, in my opinion, for that Iowa
Mhm.
Hawkeyes unit.
Agreed
Like, come
100%.
on. I think he may have eventually cracked the rotation, but just day one, I would not look for it.
Yeah, listen, I love Campbell. I want to throw that out there. I'm incredibly high on Campbell. Like, when I watch Campbell, I see, like, diet Brian Urlacher, and I've said that before. That's the type of player he is to me. I don't think he's ever going to be Urlacher because Urlacher is one of the best off-ball linebackers of all time, but Campbell can do similar stuff, and I love him, and I think Ivan Pace is just not that.
I do think it's important that I throw out there this is not just being biased because he's a Viking now.
He was on Pace
Ivan
before.
Pace was linebacker 1 for me like
Yeah.
3 months before the draft. I love Ivan Pace. He's so good. Everybody's hung up because he's like kind of small. So was London Fletcher. Fucking, I don't care. I don't care. He's so good, man.
Like I
And
said,
he's not going to have to ever really play in coverage, which is why the height matters. Because the guy we already have, the guy we drafted last year, that's like what he's best at in Brian Asamoah. Let him go be your coverage guy and just let Ivan Pace exist as the thumper, especially if you can, which I'm fairly certain Flores can do. If you can get him to be able to diagnose the run, he's going to just murder people.
Well, yeah.
And it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I want to point out, I know me and you talk about Ivan Pace a lot, and I'm never on your side.
Yeah.
But I don't think Ivan Pace is bad by any means. Like, the height thing matters, but it's really the mental side of run defense that worries me. Because, like you said, the height matters a lot for coverage, and Pace was good in coverage in college, but in the NFL, it's a different ballgame.
Yeah.
So, in the NFL, he's going to need to rush the quarterback more and play the run more.
Rushing the quarterback, he's awesome at.
Yes, and I'm not going to disagree with that whatsoever.
Yeah.
But he's going up against bigger linemen, and he struggled to shed blocks in college. He did.
At Cincinnati, non-power 5, or not the highest level.
Okay, if he struggled to shed blocks, so did Van Ness then. Since he literally has more power than Van Ness, we're literally watching him throw tackles and guards just off of him.
Yeah, there's a difference between having the momentum to throw somebody and straight up like stacking and shedding. That's what I'm talking about.
But he's,
matters.
He's a linebacker.
Yes,
you're not.
You have to do that as a linebacker
that often.
You still have to do it.
Okay.
Point is, I'll put it this way: if someone gets in Ivan Pace's face in the NFL, he's not going to toss them immediately. That's not a given. So if he has to shed a block, he's cooked. It's not happening.
And if Jack Campbell has to drop in coverage, he's cooked.
No, he's not. Campbell was awesome in coverage.
Okay.
We have agendas being pushed right here.
Yeah, like
we constantly do. Miller likes to push agendas and gets mad when I do it. I'm allowed to have my one agenda.
No, I mean,
Everybody's mad that I
again,
like Ivan Pace.
I don't think Pace is bad. I don't disagree that he has potential. It's just day one. I don't think he's going to be as good as.
Well, I don't think he's going to start.
Well, no, I
Because
don't think he will
Asamoah
either.
and Hicks
And
are
as a
those guys.
prospect, I don't think he was as good as as you do.
I
We'll
get
put it
more
that way.
offended at some of I get Jack Campbell. I get more offended at the fact that you have it. What did you have him as? Linebacker?
Like 10.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Look,
Heightest.
we can revisit
Heightest.
this next year for the Vikings
Yeah.
2024 record
Oh, yeah.
prediction.
Surely.
When we're
Give
talking
me
about
here
the
in the
best
slow cooker.
linebacker in the North.
Okay, that will never happen. He won't even be the best UDFA linebacker in the North.
Oh my God. Bro and his
Who am I
Jack
forgetting?
Sanborn.
Jack
takes.
Sanborn, who was amazing last year by UDFA standards, pretty damn solid by NFL standards. Anyways,
Oh
point being,
my.
to bring us back to earth, I like Pace. I think he has a clearly defined future in Minnesota. And I think he can be good. There's a lot of traits to get excited about. Like you said, the athleticism off the charts. Really good at rushing the quarterback. He's instinctive, not against the run, but when it comes to rushing the quarterback and also in coverage. Granted, the coverage thing isn't going to matter as much because, like you said, he's not going to get the opportunities to do that as much. But there's definitely a world where Ivan Pace is a contributor year one, and year two, year three is starting next to Brian Asamoah, and you have a solid linebacker duo. I'm not disagreeing with any of that.
Yeah.
I like Pace. I want to make that clear. I'm not anti-Pace by any means. But my favorite pick that y'all made, and this I'm going to have to do two because my favorite pick isn't necessarily because the Vikings picked him. It's just one of my favorite players in the class, and that's Jaron Hall, who, again, if we're going to push agendas, I said on Run the North way back, if he was younger and didn't have his injury history, I'm calling him a first-round talent. I love Jaron Hall. Everything he brings to the table, his arm is incredibly underrated, super, super creative, great at throwing on the run. He's a dynamic athlete. He's cool under pressure, super smart, great football IQ. He's a team leader. He has a baseball background, so he can throw the ball at like multiple different angles and make different things work. He's awesome. It's just, he's 25. He's got a really bad injury history. He missed time every single year at BYU. And he's 6'1", 205. So I get why he went as late as he did, but he was still my QB5. I thought he was great. And it's weird that he's in Minnesota because he's nothing like Kirk. So he's a weird backup for Kirk.
Well, Nick Mullins is technically the backup. Hall is going to stay on the roster, but Mullins will be QB2.
Which
I don't agree with that.
Hall's better, but
hey, let's show our respect to Nick Mullins, who in 17 games has 5,000 passing yards and 30 touchdowns.
Like I said,
he might be better than Kirk. I don't know.
But I'm just a Jaron Hall guy. I will say he'll help the scout team a lot. That's a big thing.
I think KOC is in love with Jaron Hall.
Which is fantastic.
So there's legitimately a world because Kirk is gone.
Right.
The way we've structured his contract, we can't afford to bring him back. He's already counting $30 million against the books next year when he's not on the roster. We cannot give him more money. We just can't. Kirk's gone. There's a world where Jaron Hall is the starter in 2024. I like that world. I like Hall.
I love and hate that world.
Well, yeah, because you're afraid. Because if he's good, you got to be happy because you liked Hall, but then you're scared because
Hall. Listen, I'll put it this way: if Hall is good, I will view Hall the way you view Justin Fields, minus that he was my quarterback. Just I'm really happy he's doing good, but I don't like that he does good against my team.
That's valid.
Because Jaron Hall, I mean, he's already one of my favorite quarterbacks in football. I don't know what it is. I've got like a kink for these BYU quarterbacks because I like Zach Wilson coming out. Regret that tremendously.
Yeah, that was a bad choice.
I regret that tremendously. I was wrong. And Jaron Hall, I'm hoping, does not have the same effect.
Well, Jaron Hall at least actually played real college football teams.
Yeah.
To be fair, Zach Wilson didn't play a single actual Division I school in his life.
Like, what, a fifth
Let's not disrespect Coastal Carolina and Grayson McCall there. Come on now.
I'm disrespecting.
The Chanticleers are pretty legit.
Don't care.
Damn, disrespect to Coastal Carolina.
As I was saying, Jaron Hall, I am not ecstatic about the idea of a 25-year-old rookie with an injury history coming in
And I get
and
that.
being
Yeah.
the starter next year. But if Kirk goes down, all hope is lost anyway to a certain extent because
So let's have fun.
My issues with Kirk, exactly. Let's have fun. Give Hall the run because he raises the floor. He also lowers the ceiling to a certain extent.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, if Jaron Hall was younger and wasn't beat up, he would have been probably QB3 for me. Like I would have had him above Will Levis and not questioned it twice. Or I guess QB4.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's tough. I would have been flip-flopping between him and Stroud. I won't lie. But that's neither here nor there. I just really like Jaron Hall. I'm not a Stroud hater. I like Stroud. I do know a certain someone who makes me hate Stroud a little bit. Geek, you also know that person, not you.
I was like, is it me? Because I kept mocking him at 3 with the Vikings constantly trading up for him.
I'm talking about a certain someone that we played Madden with and is on the younger side.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
But if I had to pick somebody like favorite Viking draft pick or actually just added player that I think will have an impact, Andre Carter was one of my favorite players in this entire class. Dude only went undrafted because he went to Army. That is the only way you can rationalize that to me. Because I know he's tall. I know he's built like Gumby. He makes it work. Right? He is a super athlete, surprisingly strong for his size.
He fell because the combine sucked. He was
I forgot
awful.
He was at the combine. Yeah.
And everything was bad. 10 reps on bench presses and edge is
the only thing
atrocious.
In his defense, though, he didn't know he was actually going to be draft eligible until right before the combine, so he didn't have the time to prep.
No, also other schools like Georgia have specific workout plans for guys who are going to get drafted to pump those numbers up. Meanwhile, he was marching in formation at Army.
Right. And he didn't know until the last second when Joe Biden was like, yeah, you can go play football, I guess, that he actually had an opportunity. But I do think with Brian Flores, because he's just another one of these lanky, tall edges that's a really good run defender, super, super smart, really athletic, really slippery, has great bend despite being as tall as he is. It's really weird to watch him attack the corner. Because, like, you figure a dude that stands up this tall can't bend, but he gets up underneath the tackles. It is a thing of beauty.
Slenderman out there. Love it.
Like I said, he's Gumby to me, because he's got that malleability like Gumby, but I do think he's awesome. I think he has a role in Minnesota since they're going to be rotating edges, and I do think he can make a legitimate impact. If he doesn't make their final 53, I would be beyond shocked because he will make it somewhere else.
I loved our UDFA class so much.
Yeah, I haven't decided if the Gumby comp's disrespectful or not. It feels like you're saying good things about him, but comparing anyone to Gumby.
I promise it's not disrespectful. I got love for Gumby.
I see what he means. I'm going with Slenderman because at least then he's scary.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know a lot about horror games and creepypastas and shit. Is Slenderman like bending all around and shit, or is he
Slenderman's just freakishly tall, freakishly skinny?
Yeah, I know
freakishly
that.
Freaky.
But
I don't know. I've never
is he
played
canonically bendy? Is that a thing?
I don't know. Let's Google it. Let's give it a quick Google.
Is Slenderman
bendy? No, we're just going. Is he bendy? No, I don't want to hear about bendy. I don't want like weird Slenderman versus bendy things. What the fuck is this?
Oh my god, he delved into a weird part of the internet.
I have found an interesting part of the internet. This is the time.
Okay, so the photos I'm looking at here, he's got kind of like some bendy arms he's got going. So I'm going to say
close enough.
But his torso's not going. That's the issue.
You're right. You know what? We'll say close enough. Yeah, just think of your favorite tall, like, actually, I think when I did my draft comps, I actually compared him to Wilt from Foster's Home from Imaginary Friends, funnily enough. I don't think I did Gumby. And I think my excuse for that was like Will's like stoic and like a high character guy, and obviously going to West Point, you're going to be stoic and a high character guy. Either way, those guys, and then obviously you guys mentioned Jacqueline Roy's awesome. Jay Ward is somebody I know Geek's going to fall in love with very quickly because he loves himself an aggressive DB. And that is what this man is. He lives by attacking the ball. He dies by attacking the ball. He's a really good run defender, which I love. Jay Ward's awesome. He's super fun. Mekhi Blackman, who Geek mentioned, perfect scheme fit for y'all. And then Dwayne McBride is kind of the interesting one here. Because
should have been Eric Gray.
Okay, well, I
know he went earlier.
But... Yeah, I liked McBride a lot. He's just like that old school runner because when he runs the football, it's beautiful. It's a thing straight out of the 80s, right? But because he's like straight out of the 80s, he doesn't have the breakaway speed or the ability to catch the ball. He's not a good pass blocker. And then on top of all that, he's got a case of fumbleitis, which is not great.
To be fair, every Vikings running back has to have a case
Which,
of fumbleitis.
that's true,
Peterson,
the way it
Cook,
goes.
That's
even
fair.
Robert Smith back in the day.
Yeah.
We just fumble the ball. It's our job.
Yeah. So, like, Dwayne McBride can be a sick goal line back, right? He can be a sick goal line back, sick short yardage back. It's just he's very one-dimensional. If you're not running him straight between the tackles, he's not going to do anything because he's not going to hit the outside. And then with your interior offensive line kind of being the way it is, and this being a wide zone scheme where you want your running backs to hit the outside, it's kind of an awkward fit. But I don't know. I hope it works. Like I said, I like McBride. I was a big fan of McBride at UAB. Crazy school to go to. Fucking dragon logo and all that. But
Yeah, Blazers.
Is that
the
what
way
they're
I
called?
see it, it's
Blaze-
something to that effect. You'd have to Google research that too.
I didn't know
but
that.
The way I see it, he's going to be a very good third string running back. We've got two guys in front of him who are better at receiving. And
Absolutely.
I think Madison is pretty clearly better at just straight up carrying as of right now. But if he can come in, get a few tough carries, get short yardage when someone else is tired, take some carries away from CJ Ham so CJ Ham can go out there and bulldoze people, I think that'd be a pretty all right pick. For the pick he was, 7th rounder, I have limited
absolutely.
expectations.
Yeah, like I was saying pick him in the 3rd or 4th round. Getting him in the 7th round is fantastic value. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as a whole, I love what the Vikings did in the draft. I feel like that's the consensus here. A lot of things to be excited about. So just kind of to wrap things up, I want to look at the roster, kind of touch on the position groups we haven't talked about, cover any players we haven't talked about. And I think the best place to start here is because we've mentioned them here and there, but I know we've got differing opinions on a certain theater kid that plays quarterback here in Minnesota. Isaiah's taking the shirt off. He's
got
ready.
The shirt off. We going to war. Let's go.
So, as it stands, what are our thoughts on Kirk Cousins? Does the fact that he's about to enter year 2 into Kevin O'Connell's offense when he hasn't had 2 years in a row in an offense and God knows how long give you confidence? Or do you not care and you just think Kirk sucks? Because that's the opinion on Kirk. He's either God or he sucks. There's no in between, apparently.
The Minnesota Vikings are never going to win a Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins. And as that being the ultimate goal of any football team, I feel like I'm going to be happy to see the back of him next year. He raises the floor. He lowers the ceiling. There are certain plays in playoff games, in big moments, which I just don't feel comfortable in his ability to make. I also think the primetime thing was a meme until the past few years when it suddenly didn't become a meme and I realized, oh, wait, this guy actually doesn't do well under the bright lights. I mean, the comebacks were nice to a certain extent, but at the same time, how much of that is him being a dynamic clutch quarterback and how much of that is Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, and Dalvin Cook and Josh Allen to a certain extent working some magic and helping things go his way. Is he going to be good this year from a statistical standpoint? Certainly. He's going to have Hawkinson, who is going to be better with more time in that system and a full season there, as opposed to the partial amount he got last year after getting traded. Addison is going to be a welcome addition, upgrade over Thielen, I believe. Osborne's still a great deep threat. Justin Jefferson, still the best receiver in football. Running game is still going to be a threat out of the backfield. He is going to put up good numbers on paper, but I know that as long as Kirk Cousins is my quarterback, they're never winning the Super Bowl. And that is a feeling which I don't know if many other quarterbacks in the league make their fans feel. So I'll be happy that he's gone.
I don't think that's valid. Now,
I
actually don't think we're winning the Super Bowl with him because I don't think we have the roster for that this year, and he's not on the team moving forward. But you can't tell me Joe Flacco and Trent Dilfer can win Super Bowls, and Kirk, who's 10 times better than both of them, can't. That's not
they're
valid.
Anti-Kirks, though. Joe Flacco had an historical playoff rise.
Well,
and
no,
you really think
Flacco
Kirk
just had the cheesiest offensive system of all time. He didn't have to complete a pass.
And
just throw the ball, force pass interference, and call it good. Like, I think the primetime things, other than Monday night, don't understand that one. The actual primetime numbers don't show that Kirk's awful in primetime. Yeah, maybe the team loses, But go look at the Patriots game. Kirk played great. Go look at most of these games outside of Monday Night Football against Philadelphia. That one we lost because of Kirk. There's nothing you can say because outside of that. Like, if Kirk played, fuck, in the second half, the defense didn't allow a point. If Kirk could have hit a throw in the second half, we win that game. Like, genuinely, that's how that goes.
You're talking about last year. I'm speaking like whole body of work. Last year was better. It still wasn't good.
I mean whole body of work. Other than Monday nights, primetime hasn't been that big of an issue. Even in the playoffs, he literally led the game-winning drive against the Saints after playing incredible in that first playoff game he ever had as a Viking.
How much of that, though, is the Saints
made
just
the big
being
play.
Cursed as opposed to
not.
That's a joke to a certain extent, but
I hate
he won
the
a
Saints,
wild
so
card
I'm
game.
cool. Okay, sure, but he had to make the play to do it.
How many other quarterbacks do you think can make that play, though?
I don't know.
I think quite a few could.
We saw Jimmy G get to the Super Bowl and not make that play when it mattered. The exact same play.
I think Jimmy G also falls into the Kirk Cousins category. It doesn't really matter how good a team you put around him. He's never going to be the guy to take you over the top.
I disagree with that to an extent, but I don't know. I sound like such a Kirk lover when I think he's so mid. Like, Kirk is my distinction for how good you are as a quarterback. You know, you've got better than Kirk and worse than Kirk. He is just the middle. Like, you know, is your team okay? Do they have a quarterback better than Kirk? No, well, you're fucked.
I just struggle to picture a quarterback in the modern, super pass-happy NFL. And Joe Flacco's Super Bowl isn't even quite what I'm talking about. The new pass interference. I struggle to think of a quarterback as bad as Kirk Cousins, who has won a Super Bowl in this era of football.
I don't think you... Okay, but what does Kirk do that's so bad? I need actual facts here, not just he doesn't perform in prime time.
An actual fact. When he has to lead a game-winning drive, I'm not confident in him, and he's giving me reason not to be confident.
Except he's led more game-winning drives than basically every other quarterback ever to live, ever.
And that's maybe true, but at the same point, do you feel confident in Kirk Cousins leading a game-winning drive? Is a game-winning drive in Week 10 against a 500 team the same thing as having pressure on you and doing it in the playoffs? When I watch Kirk Cousins in the playoffs, there is a noticeable difference in the quality of play.
We've seen him lead the game-winning drive in the playoffs
against a bad playoff team in a wild card round. I'm talking about actual.
That year, people were predicting the Saints to win the Super Bowl. What do you mean a bad playoff team? You're making things up.
This year. I know there's no way the Saints were a legitimate good contender that year. Like, be honest. Old man Drew Brees. But
that was before Drew Brees fell off. He didn't have the injury yet. That was the next year. I still think that
qualifies as old man Drew Brees. But, like, in your heart of hearts, do you feel confident if you said, okay, here's the game-winning drive in a Super Bowl, Kirk Cousins is going to win that for you? Like, here, Kirk, you are going against a good defense. Go make something happen.
Yeah, because I've seen him do it constantly. Because he had one game where he didn't, where there was one bad throw, aside from the fact that he played incredible the entire rest of the game. He had the one bad throw where he misses KJ, and then he gets murdered by Dexter Lawrence. Still got the ball to a guy in TJ Hawkinson who just had to not let a guy who was half his size tackle
TJ
him.
Hawkinson had no chance of making that play. He was getting hit as he was catching with his back.
It's a 95-pound corner. You're TJ Hawkinson. Have some
quarterback in the NFL.
Okay, that's not. You're saying a bottom five corner versus a top 5 tight end. He should just break a tackle, make a play. You can't blame Kirk because Hawk couldn't make a play. I'm not saying it was a perfect throw, but there's nowhere else you can go with that.
Travis Kelce can't make that play if he's getting hit in the back as he's catching, and no tight end can make that play except maybe
they do. Even Kelce does.
Kelce gets hit in the back while he's coming down the ball and makes a play.
But he didn't go up for it. He just caught it, starts getting hit, and just goes down. He didn't fight at all.
I think you're projecting blame, and I'm not blaming Kirk Cousins necessarily for that game. Their defense was more of an issue than him, but like that play specifically ain't Hawkinson.
But that's the only time we've seen him fail on a game-winning drive.
It's also how horrible he looked against the 49ers immediately after that Saints game.
Okay, but the entire offense looked bad, and so did the defense.
I'd say the offense and defense goes with Kirk. But the fact you're saying he doesn't lead, or I'm saying he doesn't lead game-winning drives when it really matters the most. You're saying, yes, he has. He's won a wild card game. He's won regular season games. I just don't think Kirk Cousins has the it factor, and I don't think he is a riser. I think you have to be a riser in order to be a Super Bowl caliber quarterback unless you're on the 49ers or a roster like that. And as much as I like the Vikings, they're not that type of team. They're not going to be that type of team in Kirk
But now
Cousins'
you're disagreeing with what you just said, though. If he had a roster like the 49ers, even though you said no matter what roster it is, you couldn't win with Kirk. If Kirk was on that Super Bowl team for the Niners instead of Jimmy G, they win that Super Bowl, and there's no question.
There's some
because he doesn't miss those throws. He never has.
He absolutely misses those throws.
No, he doesn't. The Emmanuel Sanders throw is the exact throw we watched him hit to Adam Thielen.
I know he hits those throws. He also misses those throws. Like Kirk Cousins is not flawless in these moments. He has bad throws.
Every quarterback does.
Every quarterback doesn't have them as much. Look, this comes down more to how good I think a quarterback has to be in order to be a legitimate Super Bowl contender. And I don't think Kirk's ever going to be that.
I think he's entirely disagreeing, but to say he could never is ridiculous. I think you're very much underrating.
An amazing offensive line, the best receiving unit in the league. Never might be a stretch, but in a realistic spectrum of an NFL team, and you can't have Kirk Cousins on that 49ers team or this current 49ers team because of the contract he's on.
Well,
you don't have Nick Bosa, you don't have Kittle, you don't have
unless he just goes there next year because it wouldn't be a trade. He'd just sign. He doesn't have to sign the minimum.
Signs a low cost. That doesn't seem like something which is going to happen. Quarterbacks undervaluing themselves to a great degree, which you would have to fit on that roster, just doesn't seem like something he'd do.
I don't know. When you've made that much money, now's your chance to go prove people like you completely wrong.
Travis Kelce's asking for more money. He's already proved people like me wrong. He's saying, I want a bigger contract right now.
Yeah, but
Kelce hasn't made like the big bucks yet.
Right.
He's got his rings. He's got his accolades. He has made some decent money, but he realizes he can make more, and he's
the best tight end in the world.
Everything. Yeah.
Maybe the best ever. Like, there's the argument there. Like,
he's proved everything he needs to prove. He doesn't necessarily need to be on a team that's winning a ring every year. He's got all that. He's just got to put up more numbers, and he can make money doing it. And he knows because of how good he is, he can get that money. And with a quarterback, like you said, quarterbacks aren't going to undervalue themselves, but teams will make moves to get a quarterback. Like Shanahan, we know loves Kirk. That is a fact. Shanahan, big Kirk guy. Shanahan's offense, perfect for Kirk. That's why he's working so well in Kevin O'Connell's offense, because it's so close to Shanahan's offense.
Very similar.
Yeah. So you tell Shanahan, hey, you might have to lose out on a defensive player or two, but you get Kirk. He's taking it. I'll tell you right now, because his options right now, Sam. I mean, yeah, obviously there's different factors, but I think like if we're talking like an average starter on his defense, he'll take that hit. Or like,
but I don't think an average starter clears up $40 million or $35 million.
But I also don't think Kirk needs $40 or $35 million.
No, Kirk's literally playing on 30.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I think he'd take 25 to go to San Fran.
Right. You don't have to pay him.
He signed that contract last year.
He's not going to take the vet minimum, but he also doesn't need top quarterback money.
Right.
He'd be happy settling for something in the middle if it means he's going to get
Which is kind of what he's done the entire time.
Yeah.
He settles in the middle, but it's fully guaranteed. That's the difference. He's like, I'll take 10, 15 mil less than the top guys as long as mine's fully guaranteed, which is weird because dude doesn't miss games. He's like the only guy who doesn't need fully guaranteed money.
Oh, yeah, he's still on the field. That's what I do like about Kirk. He hasn't gotten signiorly injured, banged up.
He's missed one game in his entire Vikings career, and it's because of COVID.
Yeah, but oh, Lord, I remember those. That was an interesting.
It was the Packers game because we got shithoused.
But you're saying Kirk Cousins would take a pay cut to $25 million, which I think the market would. There's some team which would pay him $35 million next offseason. I don't think anyone disputes
but
that.
But I don't think Kirk wants to just go make. I don't think Kirk's only about the money. I really don't.
Kirk's made a lot of money.
Yeah.
I think and when you talk about football players, the about the money part comes with the physical nature of the game part. No amount of winning is going to make Kirk Cousins considered
and we're
an
not
all-time
saying Kirk's going to settle for the vet min. Nobody's saying that. Like, he's still going to get good money. $25 million is still good money. Maybe it's a little bit less than another team, but if he's going to a team that's perfectly built for him, which the Niners are, then
we also got to back up. If he goes and wins
like,
a ring, he absolutely does end up considered as an all-time great quarterback. I hate saying that. He'll be top 10 in every statistic. He'll be top 10 in every single statistic ever. And have a ring? Come on.
And never quite had like the lows that someone like Eli Manning did to be considered like inconsistent.
The issue with Eli Manning is he also had 2 rings and those 2 runs.
Yeah,
so
no.
If Kirk goes and wins a ring, Eli's not a better quarterback than Kirk. You can't
Eli
even
at his
better
best
all
is
time.
better than Kirk at his best.
Eli at his best wasn't good. He had 2 great runs because he had a great defense. That's the real take. That's why nobody thinks he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I mean, he made the
most
throws.
ridiculously
no one thinks he's a Hall of
bad
Famer. Is a
throws.
wild thing to say for someone who's going to be a first or second ballot Hall of Famer.
Because he beat Brady. Should Nick Foles be a Hall of Famer? Because Foles is a better quarterback.
If he did it twice, he should. But also, you're not going to like this either. The absolute highs of Nick Foles are better than the highs of Kirk Cousins.
No. That I don't agree
That's
with.
more so
on
because
drugs.
Nick Foles also went through for what?
You are
7
just a
touchdowns
hater.
in the game, had 400 yards in the Super Bowl. The highs of Nick Foles are better than the highs of pretty much every quarterback when you think about it. But that's a tangent.
Look, okay. I'm going to cut in here because we're going to be here all day
Kirk's
if I don't.
Yeah.
I think it's incredibly ironic that even after the debate you two just had, right? Which, thank you, great content. I'm higher on Kirk than both of you.
Yeah.
How high are you on Kirk?
I think, so I'm a little bit higher than Geek. I don't think Kirk's the baseline of your quarterback's good or your quarterback's not good if he's better or worse than Kirk. I think Kirk is an above average quarterback, which in today's NFL puts him in like the top 13, 14 range. And I think you can win a Super Bowl with Kirk if you have a really good team around him. Geek and I were talking about this last night. Kirk's not someone who elevates those around him. He gets elevated by those around him. And I get what you're saying, that a quarterback needs to be one that elevates people to win a ring. But we just saw Nick Foles win a ring a couple years ago. He's not that. Joe Flacco wasn't that. A lot of the quarterbacks in the early 2000s, the one that you said earlier that I've already forgotten the name
Trent Dilfer?
Trent Dilfer, yeah. Trent Dilfer was not that. We've seen quarterbacks go to the Super Bowl that aren't that. Jimmy G isn't that. Jared Goff wasn't that. Kirk is better than the guys I just named. And if you put him on a team where there is talent around him and it's a system that he's comfortable in, he wins a ring. Like Geek said, if the Niners have Kirk against the Chiefs, I fully believe they win a ring because Kirk's not missing the throws that Jimmy G did. You put Kirk on the 49ers last year, I'm going to go as far to say that they beat the Eagles in the NFC Championship game and go to the Super Bowl.
Probably.
Because Brock Purdy's not good.
That's more so an injury thing than
it's an injury thing, but still, even if Purdy was fully healthy, I don't think they win that game because I don't think Purdy's good.
No.
Kirk's good. Kirk, you can win a ring with. A lot of things have to be good around him. It's not like Kirk is the reason you win the ring, but Kirk won't keep you from winning a ring. So I think Kirk's like a top 13-ish quarterback in the league right now, and I think it's...
Oh, you're going to say something heinous about Purdy.
Let me respond to this before Geek jumps in because he kind of agrees with you to a certain extent. Here's my viewpoint. Joe Flacco won his ring over a decade ago. The NFL's changed. It's become more pass reliant. It's become not so much, the star receiver is going to carry. It's got to be the quarterback now. And when the Eagles won that Super Bowl, it was the quarterback. Say, Nick Foles is better than Kirk Cousins. I'm not saying that. I think Nick Foles is a one-hit wonder with a few other exceptions. Mm-hmm. But during that one hit, his peak, his ability to elevate people around him, which he did. Look at that Eagles receiving corps. Look at what he was throwing to. Look at what he had 400 passing yards with.
Yeah,
he elevated that unit because of how he played. I just don't see Kirk ever being able to do that. Like, I'm going to look at the previous 5 or so Super Bowls where Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes is elevating that talent around him. Rams, Matthew Stafford is elevating that talent around him. He had Odell go down on him, still managed to lead game-winning drives. Tom Brady elevated the talent around him. Patrick Mahomes, again, elevated the talent around him. Patriots scored 13 points and won the Super Bowl in 2019. I'd say Tom Brady elevated the talent around him, but really that gets back to the meme of Tom Brady being the best
No,
defensive
I
player
think
of all
that's
time.
Jared Goff.
Yeah.
Lowered the talent
Goff
around him.
Gurley not having a knees. But then you go back, Eagles, Nick Foles elevated that talent. Tom Brady in the Falcons Super Bowl elevated that talent.
I think you're entirely underrating that Eagles offense, which doesn't surprise me because people do it. I get people like to talk shit on Alshon Jeffrey, even though during those years he was one of the best receivers in football. Like, actually was. There's no argument there. So that's like saying Kirk has to elevate not Justin Jefferson, but like even just to the edge of that. Like, let's move back a couple years. Kirk has to elevate Thielen. No, Thielen being Thielen would have been enough. Alshon being Alshon was enough. That was a really great offense and a great defense, even though they didn't play like it because Brady had the best performance of any quarterback in any Super Bowl
on
ever.
That team as well was a huge benefactor for Foles.
Like, I'm not saying,
like Foles was really good during that run. Yeah. I'm not disagreeing with that at all. That was the best Foles has ever been, and he exceeded expectations by a mile and a half. Still was not a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins. I still think like Geek said, I think you're overrating at least a little bit how much he elevated the offense. And I do think Kirk Cousins, if you get the right team around him, can win a Super Bowl. And that's kind of the thing. I know you're pointing out that all the last Super Bowl winners have been big-time quarterbacks. And it's just kind of been that the best teams in the league all have big-time quarterbacks. A lot of the teams that have the good surrounding cast and don't have a good quarterback have had bad quarterbacks. The Niners, Jimmy Garoppolo sucks. Brock Purdy is not good. Trey Lance could have been good, but he's kind of up in the air right now. Look at the Jets. They had a great supporting cast last year. Zach Wilson, Mike White, they sucked. The Dolphins had a great supporting cast last year. Tua goes down. They're stuck with Skylar Thompson, who sucked.
They're about to get Tua slander there. I got worried when you started on that Dolphins.
No, I like Tua. I like Tua.
The Dolphins continue in those playoffs if they have Tua or Teddy.
Yeah.
It is just the fact they were stuck with Skylar. That team got held back.
Or, again, we saw the Rams go all the way to the Super Bowl with Jared Goff, and Jared Goff was mediocre. We saw the 49ers go all the way to the Super Bowl at their best with Jimmy Garoppolo, and Jimmy Garoppolo was not good. Teams can get to the big dance with a bad quarterback. Kirk isn't a bad quarterback. He's good. He's not elite. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not anything like that. Right. But he's at least good. And that's enough. And I do think if we get into a world where he goes to the Niners next year, we're going to see him surprise people. And this is coming from somebody that a year ago would have been in the exact same seat you are. I hated Kirk Cousins. I didn't think he was good. I thought he was wildly overrated. I thought he was worse Derek Carr. I thought it was insulting that he was being put anywhere near a guy like Dak Prescott, all that kind of stuff. But this past season, watching him in Kevin O'Connell's offense where he's comfortable, he has a coach that believes in him, and he has weapons around him, he's good. Kirk is good. He's not great, but he's good.
Something I'd like to add,
which matters.
You might also be surprised when I say I could also see myself saying Kirk's a top 10 quarterback. That is a weird place to go, but it's how I view more so the intangibles than anything else.
Yeah.
Like productivity-wise, he was top 10,
certainly,
top 5 last year.
I just want to see... I just want to see how this year goes because I think we're going to talk about this soon. So I'm just going to stop and move on from Cuzzo.
I was going to say, we need to get off this.
Cuzzo is Cuzzo.
Yeah.
Cuzzo
we
is
sat
Cuzzo.
and talked about Kirk for a solid 20 minutes.
Which is valid.
Yeah, no, I saw that coming. But
yeah.
Whoever we bring in next year raises our Super Bowl chances. That's all.
I don't think that's exactly true.
Depends on who we bring in.
Right. I think you're forgetting really quick what it was like to be a Vikings fan pre-Kirk. I think you're actually forgetting what it's like. You might be aware,
but
you're not remembering.
Same thing.
You're not. Teddy was good, but he only had 1 year. You're forgetting the Matt Castles, the Tavares Jacksons, the Joe Webbs.
Actually, the Sam Bradford year was all right for 5 games, but
that's just Sam Bradford.
Yeah.
He's all right for 5 games.
God, before he gets hurt, I loved Bradford. I wish he wouldn't have sucked so hard. Well, been so injured. He didn't suck. He was great if he got to play.
But moving on. We already talked about the running back room, thankfully.
Yeah.
We already talked about the fullback room, thankfully. Pass catchers are just going to lump them in together. We've already talked about Addison. We've talked about some of the other guys. Justin Jefferson goes without saying, best wide receiver in football. I don't think there's going to be any contention there from either of you. Please, for the love of God, do not
Production might
that.
dip a tiny bit next year, but yeah, he's still the best.
You got more mouths to feed. That's the only reason it would dip.
I don't
But
think it
even
does,
then, I don't know if it does because,
I think it might continue to grow.
Like, I know
That's
Geek will
also a
argue that
possibility.
Justin Jefferson was the most valuable player in football last year, and I don't think he's crazy for thinking that. He didn't win MVP because it's a quarterback award. That's the world we
He
live in,
still
sadly.
should have.
But
I would have loved it if the last two non-quarterbacks to win MVP were Vikings. That would have been cool.
sorry,
Still the
Kari
last one
Blasingham's
was, though.
winning it this year.
I love Kari, but don't set yourself up like that.
No, so what else we got? We've got Jordan Addison. We talked about KJ Osborne.
We talked about the O-line already.
Yeah,
right?
we talked about the O-line, but KJ Osborne, one of the best wide receiver threes in football, not better
I
than
love
Darnell Mooney.
KJ.
Moving on, TJ Hawkinson, great tight end, one of the 5 best tight ends in football.
Apparently can't break a tackle.
Well, he's just a big goofy guy.
I guess.
He does his thing. He's really good at getting open. And
This is true.
there's value in that as a tight end. Sure, he's not the strongest guy in the world. He's not the best blocker, but hey, you got Isaiah Oliver for that. He's an okay blocker. He's not great, but he's okay. I'm not saying he's a liability if you have him blocking. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, well, the way you said it, you made him sound like Travis Kelce, which is just not valid.
Yeah, he's not Kelce bad as a blocker.
He's not Kittle good either. He's
right.
Like,
he's mediocre. He's a mediocre.
Kelsey's getting
blocker.
sneakily better as the years go by, which is weird for a guy getting older, I might add.
Kelsey's just different. He's just a
Kelsey's
special
a
little
receiver.
snowflake doing his
He's
own
an enigma.
thing. He is an enigma. He really is. Him and his brother both.
Yeah.
Yeah, the offensive line we talked about. Are there any players that we skipped over on offense that you guys want to give a shout out to? I know there's like some wide receivers we didn't talk about, but I don't know how much you guys want to talk about them.
The player I'd normally give shout outs to in these settings is CJ Ham, but obviously that topic pretty thoroughly covered on this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, you've got, I don't know.
I think it's what you brought up earlier. The big thing for the offense, I genuinely think, is not just Kirk, but basically everybody that's not a rookie being able to be in the same offense for a second year for the first time is kind of dope. Even Justin Jefferson's had to learn a new offense every year of his career until now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is the first time it's just growing on what you know, not relearning everything. And I think that's, for an offense that was already great, I think that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
I agree. It's kind of easy to be a wide receiver position-wise in terms of knowing the playbook.
Well, sure, but still.
Still hurts your confidence a little bit to think, oh, God, we got to do this again.
God, I got to learn again.
Right. Yeah, like Justin Jefferson just wants to be like, I know what I'm doing. Let me go tear everybody's face off. Like, that's what he wants to be doing, and now he gets to do that. Switching over to the defense. I'm pretty
confident he's going for 100 yards a game. I'll just throw that out there. That's kind of...
wouldn't shock anyone.
I am waiting for the 2,000-yard season. He'd
be the first receiver ever, right?
But it will happen. I did see somebody trying to argue some bullshit with Justin Jefferson.
Oh, my.
And, like, his ability of getting over 1,500 yards every year of his career so far, and everybody being like, well, he's got 17 games now. He's been over 1,500, or he's been over 1,300 by week 12 every year of his career. Like, none of that mattered. This is some shit. Stop talking. Yeah. Stop adding. Stop pretending the extra game changed anything. He was actually, his worst game was week 18 against the Bears this year. Now, to be fair, that's just because he didn't play. But
we contained Justin Jefferson.
Yeah,
surely there was no reason
letting us get a lead really quickly and then us going, all right, starters.
That's the strategy. Listen, rest of the NFL, that's what you do. If you don't want to deal with Justin Jefferson, let the Vikings get up early and then they'll take him off the field. Yeah, big brain strategy. But moving over to the defensive side of the ball, we've talked about Dean Lowry. We've talked about Khyiris Tonga. Harrison Phillips is another name on this defensive line. Ross Blacklock, James Lynch, Jonathan Bullard, who they retained.
Assezi
Otomowo?
Temwo. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know
I
how
love
to say his
Assezi.
first name.
I love Assezi. He's
Sheldon
so good.
Day, TJ Smith. Out of just the linemen, not the edge rushers that we'll talk about separately. Out of the linemen, is there anyone here that you guys want to give a little screen time to?
I'm excited for the second year of Assezi, actually. He's just another one of those, like, uber athletic, like, project guys, but I'm excited to see if he's got any juice in his second year, especially in a Brian Flores defense.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'll be incredibly fun.
For sure.
I mean, Tunga and Roar are the two guys I'm excited about, but we already talked about them. I'm excited Neil Hunter actually gets to be a defensive lineman.
Well,
Yeah,
hopefully. Right now, he's still listed as a linebacker.
Well, he's an edge rusher.
Gross.
You know how it goes.
Yeah.
But moving over to the edges, we've got Hunter, we've got Davenport, we've got DJ Wanham, who I know Geek is a big fan of. You've got Patrick Jones, some other guys.
Yeah, after Patrick Jones, you're done, basically.
Right.
I even like Patrick Jones. Last year, he came in and played pretty well in limited snaps. He had a 2-sack game in like his second career start. So just as another young guy who was a late round pick, I don't know, he could be something, especially just in a rotation of dudes. He could be fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Again, once you get past the first few guys, my expectations get super tempered. Like if you get a sack on the year, if you don't shoot us in the foot because someone got tired or hurt, that is
that's fair.
Yeah, for sure. And then the off-ball linebackers have been a point of contention between Geek and I for about a year now. Jordan Hicks, we've given his flowers. Obviously, Ivan Pace as well. But Brian Asamoah is the big one here. And Asamoah, I did not like coming out of college, full disclosure, because his way of tackling scared me. I'm big on tackling mechanics. That's a thing that matters a lot to me, especially for a linebacker. And Brian Asamoah, every time he tackled, went like this. And that is scary because that's how you Ryan Shazier yourself. But he has improved. He doesn't run straight at you with his head down anymore. He learned, oh, hey, I should probably pick this up so I don't die. And that has helped him a lot. And he's really good in coverage. So props to him.
I love that I was so right about that. I was like, dude, he's going to work with Harrison Smith and Eric Kendricks. He's going to figure it out.
And I mean,
I don't know. Tackling form's hard to relearn.
And I mean, I still stand by that. Like, once you have something down to a point where it's like muscle memory, it is hard to take that back and break it down and relearn it. But props to him. He did it. Yeah. And he figured it out. He's a lot better than I thought he was going to be. And we're only a year into his career.
I like that.
Like I said, great off-ball linebacker. I hate that he wears number 33 as a linebacker. That's
yucky.
Icky.
See,
yeah,
what fucks me up. He wore 24 in college, and I can't figure out if that would have been better or not.
It would have. 20s on a linebacker is no.
Unless it's Pete Werner. Pete Werner looks cool wearing 20.
So it's 20. Okay for that idiot. Okay.
I like Pete Werner. But also, he's wearing something in the 30s. We're talking about in the 20s.
But, okay, so, I don't know. It's tough because he's basically only a coverage linebacker.
Yeah. And
it doesn't bug me as much, I guess, because he's not doing much of the other stuff as a linebacker. Yeah. Like, if that makes sense. No, he's more in coverage. He's almost more like a safety, so it's kind of better. But he's obviously not a safety. He's going to be playing the Eric Kendricks role for this defense.
I'll put it this
way. Whereas somebody else will be the Anthony Barr run stopper rusher role. He's going to be the EK. I'm going to cover the middle of this field. I got it.
Yeah.
And as a more athletic guy, I like that.
Yeah. I will say the whole linebacker number thing, I think the reason I like Pete Werner in 20 is because of the 0. Like, I don't know what it is. The number ending, like the 10s multiple just looks clean, right? Like, when I think linebacker, the two numbers that stand out to me are 50, because that's linebacker. Anything in the 50s is a linebacker. And 51 because of Dick Butkus, so I'm biased. So I think 50, 40, 30, 20, you can get away with. 10, please leave. Single digits, fine. As long as it's not like 8. 8 would look really weird on a linebacker.
What about your boy?
What boy?
Roquan.
Roquan's wearing 0 now.
Oh, is he? I was
like,
what?
18
how do you feel
was
about 18?
Disgusting.
Yeah.
That is repulsive. But he's switching to 0, so
Zero's
I can
not
stomach
bad.
it now.
Yeah, 0's fine. I still wish Ivan Pace got 0.
Yeah.
I'm mad that it's Marcus Davenport.
Is that who they gave it to? Was Davenport?
Davenport picked 3,
Mhm.
and then I guess they took it away and gave it to Jordan Addison, which is funny.
Mhm.
And then gave him 0, which sucks.
Yeah.
That's Ivan Pace's number.
Yeah. If it isn't apparent we really care about football, we're talking about numbers, kickers,
Numbers,
fullbacks,
schemes,
long snappers.
interior offensive line.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Talking for 20 minutes about a guy who we probably don't think's a top 10 quarterback.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, not to go on another tangent, but that's the thing about Kirk. He's such a heated topic no matter what. But like, it's funny when you think about it because he's just this goofy guy. Like, Kirk is the
Kirk
theater
Thuggins.
kid of the NFL. If all the quarterbacks
Kirk
were at
Thuggins.
lunch in high school, Kirk's the theater kid. And I love that because I was a theater kid. So I feel spiritually connected to Kirk.
Criticism of him. Not to criticize you in any way, but I wouldn't want you to be the quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings.
Fair enough. But
Give me
looking
a
at
bully. Give me a popular kid. Don't give me a theater kid.
Fuck that. I don't want to bully.
Joe Burrow seems like he'd be a bully.
Burrow doesn't seem
pretty
like a
happy with
bully.
Joe Burrow.
Burrow was he's
Burrow's
the
just
quiet.
You know,
cool
Burrow
dude.
had a leather jacket, greased back hair, smoked cigs.
I know, but
behind
I
the
feel like
school,
Burrow was the type of
would
cool
steal
kid
your
that like
girl.
stood up to the bullies. He would
Right?
steal your girl if you were one of the popular kids, but like if he saw them picking on the nerd in the corner, he'd be like, "Hey, man, let's
Not-
chill on them."
Josh
let's leave
Allen
him
was
alone.
the bully, and that's
Yes.
why he plays like such a moron.
Yes,
I wonder where
Josh
Patrick
Allen's the
Mahomes
meathead
was.
in the locker room that would shove you into a locker.
You can't be a bully when you sound like Kermit the Frog,
Yeah,
dog. You
Josh
can't.
Allen-
It just
Or
can't.
Patrick Mahomes
work.
probably sat by himself and dipped his chicken strips in obscene amount of ketchup the entire lunch period.
Yeah.
But moving away from the social hierarchy of the NFL quarterbacks at the lunch table, the secondary, again, for like the 15th time, lots to be excited about. Harrison Smith, another guy that at this point goes without saying, one of the best safeties, not only of the last 10 years, not only in the last 20 years of my lifetime, but quite frankly, of all time. First ballot Hall of Fame type player, right up there with Polamalu. I don't care what anyone says. He's fantastic. And then you've got the young guys, Cam Bynum, Lewis Seen, Andrew Booth, 3 guys that didn't get a lot of love last year because of injuries. Hoping they can bounce back and really do something for this defense. As much as I hate to admit it, I was a big Booth guy coming out of college. May or may not have had him ranked higher than a certain corner now on the Chicago Bears, but we don't talk about that because I've gaslit Geek into thinking it was the other way around.
Very
No,
nice.
No, you haven't. No, you haven't.
But do we need to talk any more about the secondary? Like, I feel like we've given them their roses plenty.
The only thing I'll say is I'm a little bit worried Mekhi Blackman's going to get buried just because of how many other young cornerbacks are on the roster. I kind of think Sy might also be at risk of having that happen to him. But 1 or 2 guys in this unit's going to work out. Paired with Harrison Smith, I'm going to be happy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think Mekhi gets buried. Because I'm still concerned about Booth and Evans when it comes to injury history.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Mekhi may get a shot, not just because he wins the shot, but just because somebody else falls out due to injury.
I think Flores is going to fall in love with Blackman.
I really
He's a
do.
scrappy, aggressive man corner, and that is what Flores wants.
Yeah.
So I think even if maybe day one he's not better than some of those guys, by the end of the season he'll be starting. He'll be getting reps.
Yep.
I do think Flores is going to prioritize him. Maybe even if it's not this year, next year, he'll be getting meaningful snaps. And then wrapping things up with the special teams unit. We talked about Tupuola. We talked about Greg Joseph.
Oh.
Ryan Wright is there. I know I see another kicker as well.
Yeah,
That's what you're talking about.
a UDFA kicker. I didn't know he was there.
They
so,
signed
all
him
right.
while we were making this video. They heard you.
Maybe. It's possible.
Ryan Wright, we feel any sort of way about him? I know punters are a thing that people care about.
He's really good. Like, he's really good. That's about all I got, though.
He's
And
one of
then-
the best in the league. I'm just glad we didn't see him all that much last year.
Right.
And then
When
of
we
course-
did, he was trapping people inside the 5 constantly. So,
Yeah.
Great.
And then finally, Geek's pride and joy,
Yes.
Kene Nwangwu. Go ahead. Say things about the
He's
guy.
literally the best returner in football now. There's actually not an argument. because Cordero Patterson doesn't return kicks anymore. He
Sad.
didn't line up one time as a kick returner last year. That does suck. Cordero was the greatest of all time at kick returns, specifically. I have to say that because otherwise Miller and all the Bears fans will yell Devin Hester at me. But as a kick returner, Cordero's great. But no, Kenny Nwangwu is incredible, and he somehow has found a way to stay on this roster in a loaded running back room just because he can return kicks real good. And you need a guy like that. And it's also apparently just what Minnesota does. When's the last time we haven't had one of the best kick returners in the world?
Between him, Patterson, and Percy Harvin, it's been a while.
Yeah. So I love it. I love Kenny. He's so good. His name is also really fun to yell. That's what I know.
Kind of like yelling Antetokounmpo.
Yeah.
I'll say his name sounds like Forrest Gump trying to say Kenny, and I think that's great. But that being said, the final question I have for you guys, it's two-parter. So what player are you most excited to watch this season? You can't say Justin Jefferson because everyone's excited to watch Justin Jefferson. So what player are you most excited to watch this season? And what is your record prediction for the team? I want a ceiling, I want a floor, and I want a firm prediction that you have to stick with. You cannot change. If you change it, I will hunt you down and force you to take it back.
How am I supposed to remember what I predict?
You can come back to the video. You can watch it. Boost my watch time.
See, that's why I don't want to go back to the video.
That's rude.
I'm a big Christian Darrisaw guy. We haven't touched much on the tackles. I'm pretty sure it's consensus that, yeah, they're some of the best in the league. If they can stay on. If Darrisaw can stay on the field, I think you could see him make that push. First team All-Pro, arguably best left tackle in the league. Do what Andrew Thomas did last season. So I would like to watch that. I'm a big offensive line guy. Used to play it. I enjoy watching more than most people. Don't make that many videos about because they average about 3,000 views. But I enjoy the offensive line. I enjoy Darrisaw. He's a physical freak. He shuts people down. And I think if he is consistently healthy, he kind of carries this Vikings offensive line pretty hard. So he's who I'm looking forward to watching.
Well, I loved Andrew Booth coming out of college. So I want to see what Andrew Booth can do actually getting playing time in a Flores system. I think Booth could be incredible. So I think he's probably the guy I'm most excited for.
Yeah, for me, I got to go with CJ Ham, obviously. But that's cheating. So I'll say Ty Chandler.
There you go.
Guy. I love Ty Chandler. And depending on how this RB room shakes out, he could have a really nice season. I do think he fits what you want in an outside zone back a little bit better than Madison, even if Madison's a better all-around player. So I could almost see a world where you're looking at like a David Montgomery, Khalil Herbert type of duo where one guy's getting more carries. He's obviously the lead back, but you get that little bit of jolt of juice every once in a while. He breaks off a big run and everybody goes crazy.
It's what everybody thought Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift would be.
Yeah. It's just a Thunder and Lightning duo.
Yeah.
Even though Madison's got a little bit of juice to him.
Yeah.
Not quite as much as really any of the other guys in that room.
Well, no.
I just don't think he's
but Madison's
he's got enough more juice than McBride.
Yeah, he's got enough juice to hit the outside and be able to pick up some yards, and that's all you need from him.
All right, record predictions. So I actually anticipated going a lot of different ways with this. I'm going to tentatively say they're going to win either 10 or 11 games, 10-7, 11-6. That's kind of my middle of the road. Best case scenario, I made a list of all the 50-50 games throughout the schedule, which I thought could really go one way or the other. Best case scenario, I see 13-4. That's if the defense really clicks. That's if they get lucky with some scheduling. Like they played the Kansas City Chiefs in week 5, I believe, and most people chalk that up as an automatic loss, but KC has a rough first 4 weeks, Jets, Jaguars, Detroit. Yeah. So that can kind of beat down on them.
It's also in Minnesota.
That's also part of it. There are some games that are like, we're not beating the Eagles on the road week 2.
Especially not on Monday Night Football.
Let's go, Kirk 4-pick game.
No,
Again.
Jaron Hall is going to play and we're going to win. That's how that goes.
I win either way.
That's true.
So,
oh, sorry.
Jared Hall's the primetime quarterback. And worst case scenario is 7-9, which I kind of is the exact same logic. Use all those 50-50 games go against us. But I see us doing at worst 500 in the division. 3-3. I don't think the Packers are that good. I think we'll sweep them, worst case scenario, and get one against the Bears if things are going poorly and Detroit sweeps us. I kind of think right now we're going to split Detroit and sweep everyone else, but I see you giving me that look. My one reason, the game at Soldier Field, which is in prime time, is early in the year, so I think the Bears won't have had quite enough time to get up to steam to prime time.
I get it. Yeah.
And at home, I'm confident.
I also don't think it's crazy to expect that to happen. The Bears are still early in a rebuild. This is when we finally have a roster. You give it a year to bring everything together, and then next year when you're like, okay, this is do or die. This year, you just want to see Fields grow. So if the Bears suck, I'm not going to be that upset. Plus 2 first-round picks. A lot of good edge rushers in this class. The Bears have none.
If they win the North, that entirely depends on Detroit as opposed to Minnesota.
Yeah.
I think if Detroit's as good as people seem to think they are, they're going to win 12, 13 games and win the division. We'll still be a wild card if my record prediction works out. If Detroit falls apart, we may win the division with 10 or 11 wins.
Yeah.
So I almost entirely agree with what you said. High end, I think we're 13-4. Low end, though, I think we're 9-8. I have more faith in. Again, low end, barring injury. I have more faith in us apparently than you do, which is fine. But it's also just looking at the schedule. Like, it's more difficult than last year, but it's also, I expect probably 4 wins in division. And then outside of that, you got the Broncos and the Raiders and some teams like that I don't see us having too much difficulty with. So I got 9-8 on the low end. My actual prediction is going to be 11-6 because even though we got better than what we were last year, the record's not going to show that because we way overperformed basically the team that we were. So we got better, but it's not going to be reflected in the record probably. There's always a world, right?
Hey, the way I've got it scheduled, or I see it going, we will finish the season somewhat hot. So maybe carry that into the playoffs. Maybe actually make it past the wild card.
Probably.
You never know. Probably not, but
Kirk's last ride, anything could happen.
Hey, I'd be so down.
I'll buy a Kirk Cousins jersey if he wins the Super Bowl for us.
See, you aren't ready for the heinous narratives I'm going to push for whatever quarterback wins Minnesota a Super Bowl. The most cursed franchise of all time. That whoever it is automatically the GOAT. I don't care.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with you on the most cursed part. But
if Kirk does it, he's the new GOAT. I don't care. He's better than Brady. If he wins a Super Bowl with us, he's better than Brady. Brady ran from it, went to Buffalo, or not to Buffalo, to the Buccaneers. I went, whatever, Tampa. I don't know why I said Buffalo. Don't listen to my brain.
To live somewhere warm in the winter.
Well, warm, and he was afraid of how cursed the Vikings were. He'd get exposed. He'd look bad.
Anyways,
he ran from it.
Bringing things back to reality and getting out of La La Land. I don't know what crazy Vikings D&D campaign you've been playing, but I do agree with you guys. I think high end 13 wins is absolutely reasonable. Low end, I'm kind of in between the two of you. I think 8 and 9, because again, it's a lot of the 50-50 games, and I don't know. It's tough to really pick a low end for this team because there's so much that can go right. Yeah. It's like for the low end, you almost have to be injuries are going to happen, which they do. Unfortunately, it sucks, but I also don't want to predict injuries, so it's tough. But I do think right around 500, whatever way you want to cut that, 9-8, 8-9, whatever. I'm just saying 8-9 for the sake of being different. And then actual record prediction, 10-11 wins. And like Geek said, it'll be a better football team. The record just might not reflect that. And I know that'll be the big talk next year is the Vikings regressed. They won less games, but they're going to be a better football team to anyone that's paying attention. No matter what, this team could win 9 games, and I would still probably say they were better than they were last year.
Yeah.
Because respectfully, this past year's Vikings were a mediocre football team disguised as a contender.
Mm-hmm.
And now that mediocre football team got better, cut a lot of dead weight, everything we've been talking about for the past 2.5 hours, this is going to get cut down, thankfully. So maybe not 2.5 hours, maybe just 2. But yeah, I like the way the Vikings are headed, unfortunately, but it is what it is. Now, that being said, I'm going to give you guys the floor, let you promote anything you want to promote. All links will be in the description, obviously. So by all means, go ahead.
Hey, man, follow me on TikTok, sub to me on YouTube. The thing I'm really trying to grow is the Twitter, but I kind of feel like I picked a bad time to start frequently tweeting because now you don't show up on the For You page unless you have Twitter Blue.
Yeah.
But hey, I'll occasionally make fullback videos. I'm very biased. I'm basically fantasy AZ, but slightly more logical, more sex appeal.
You're fantasy football AZ, but you
the takes are better.
prioritize cool factor instead of fantasy football.
I don't think he even does fantasy football. He just comes up with the outlandish
I don't know
hot
what
takes.
he does, man. He does something.
See,
Like,
he just gives the most egregious takes because then people notice him and boost his platform. Every time we respond to fantasy football AZ, he gets stronger.
Yeah.
Every take I make, I believe I just hyperbolize him a little bit.
Yep.
Well, you got the voice to pull it off, so
There you go. I yell a little bit more in the actual TikToks.
yeah.
You'll see me recording in my car, freak out a little bit. Who is this random homeless dude talking to himself? And what does he have against Kirk Cousins?
Right.
Have against Kirk.
All right.
Poor man.
And Geek.
Go follow me literally everywhere. Just the TheGeekSlays. Also go sub to Run the North. Listen to me and Miller yell at each other every week. Jake's there too sometimes.
Pretty much.
We bully him. It's funny.
It is quite the thing. And no, this will go up before that, but our next episode of Run the North, if all goes well, should be pretty damn cool. So you'll definitely want to check that out. But that being said, thank you guys for joining me for as long as we did. I know I said we were going to be about 90 minutes. We ran an extra hour. Oops. My bad. But it's not like y'all didn't contribute to it, so I can't feel too bad.
Yeah, it's our fault.
We did rant about Cuzzo for a while.
But yeah, to everyone out there watching, definitely make sure to leave a like down below and leave a comment as well telling us what you think the Vikings are going to do. Yell at us if you think we're wrong, praise us if you think we're right, and just tell us what you think about Kirk Cousins. That's what everyone wants to talk about. Give us your full unfiltered thoughts on Kirk Cousins in the comments below. Do not hold back. I want to see how absurd it can get. And also make sure to follow me on other platforms, TikTok, which I've kind of been neglecting. I know we're getting around to it. Busy times and whatnot. Twitter, I'm on there all the time, all that good stuff. All the links to everything will be down in the description. And again, make sure to subscribe because if you subscribe, you're going to get to see me talk to a bunch more cool NFL fans and other content creators about the other 28 teams that I haven't covered yet. So definitely make sure to be on the lookout for that throughout the summer. And to everyone out there watching, as well as the two lovely gentlemen joining me here today, I hope you all have a wonderful day, evening, night, afternoon, whatever time of day it is for you. I hope you enjoy it because you're all wonderful people and you deserve it.